I watch Emily's fingers tremble as she holds up her left hand, the diamond catching the light in a way that makes my stomach clench. The engagement ring is exactly the kind I would have chosen. Classic, elegant, timeless. Just like the daughter I've tried so desperately to claim as my own for the past 7 years. My name is Maya, and this moment should be perfect. We're all gathered at the upscale restaurant I reserved for Emily's 24th birthday. Andrew beaming beside me, Joshua nervously adjusting his tie, our closest family friends dabbing tears and raising champagne flutes. I'm smiling so hard my face hurts, but something in Emily's eyes makes the celebration feel hollow. I can't believe my baby girl is getting married, Andrew says, his voice thick with emotion as he pulls Emily into an embrace. She returns it stiffly, her gaze sliding past him to fix on something or someone near the entrance. I turn just in time to see a flash of copper hair disappearing behind a column. My chest tightens. I know that hair, that furtive movement. Karen, Emily's biological mother, who abandoned her family when Emily was 16. The woman who's supposed to be in Seattle, not lurking at her daughter's engagement dinner in Chicago. Everything okay? I ask Emily, touching her arm lightly. She jerks away as if burned. Perfect, she says, but her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Joshua and I are thinking about a spring wedding. Small, intimate. Whatever you want, sweetheart, I say, already mentally calculating costs. My salon empire can easily cover a wedding 10 times what they're likely planning. I'd love to help with the arrangements. Actually, Emily cuts in, we want to keep it simple, just immediate family. The words hang there, heavy with implication. I've heard that tone before, when she introduced me to college friends as my dad's wife instead of stepmom, when she excluded me from mother-daughter events at her graduation. Joshua clears his throat. Emily, maybe we should— No, she says sharply. Then, softening, let's just enjoy tonight. Andrew squeezes my hand under the table, but it feels like an afterthought. He's watching Emily with that familiar mix of guilt and adoration, the look that says he'll never quite forgive himself for her mother's abandonment, that he'll do anything to keep her happy now. The waiter arrives with more champagne, and conversations bloom around us. I catch fragments, Joshua's recent promotion, wedding venue suggestions, jokes about in-laws. But I'm stuck on that copper hair, on Emily's trembling fingers, on the careful way she's avoiding my gaze. Lisa, my sister, leans close. Did you see? Yes, I cut her off, not wanting to hear Karen's name spoken aloud. Not here, not now. What are you going to do? I take a long sip of champagne, letting the bubbles burn my throat. What am I going to do? I built my life from nothing, transformed a single chair in a rented booth to 30 high-end salons across 3 states. I married Andrew believing I could build something just as beautiful with his daughter. Now I'm watching it all unravel because a woman who threw away her family thinks she deserves a second chance. Emily laughs at something Joshua whispers, but her eyes keep darting to that column. Each glance is like a knife between my ribs. 7 years of school events, late-night talks, shopping trips, and family vacations. All of it means nothing against the pull of biology. A toast, Andrew announces, standing. To Emily and Joshua, and new beginnings. Everyone raises their glasses. I lift mine mechanically, watching Emily's face in the candlelight. There's something calculating in her expression now, something that makes me wonder if Karen's presence is more than just coincidence. To new beginnings, I echo, but in my mind, I'm already plotting how to ensure this wedding never happens. The bridal boutique's pristine white walls mock me as Emily emerges from the dressing room in her 3rd wedding gown. It's a masterpiece of silk and lace that costs more than most people's monthly salary. I'd write the check without blinking, if only she'd look at me the way she keeps glancing at her phone. It's beautiful, I say, reaching to adjust the train. Emily steps away, her movement so subtle it could almost be accidental. Almost. I don't know, she says, studying her reflection. It feels too traditional. The boutique owner, a woman who introduced herself as Madame Claire, hovers nearby with an arsenal of veils. Perhaps something more modern? We have a lovely collection from. Emily's phone buzzes. Her fingers twitch, but she doesn't reach for it. Not yet. Why don't we take a break? I suggest, forcing warmth into my voice. Get some lunch? Clear our heads? Actually, Emily smooths invisible wrinkles from the dress. I should get back to work. We can continue this another time. Madame Claire's carefully maintained smile slips. But we have 3 more appointments scheduled. I'll cover any cancellation fees. I cut in, pulling out my credit card. Emily's already disappeared into the dressing room, leaving the $1,000 gown in a heap on the floor. 10 minutes later, we're standing on Michigan Avenue, the spring wind whipping between us like a physical barrier. Emily's typing on her phone, her copper hair, so like her mother's, falling forward to shield her face. Everything okay? I ask. You seem distracted? Fine, just work stuff. She doesn't look up. Thanks for today, but maybe we should hold off on more appointments for a while. Of course. I hesitate, then add, you know, when I was planning my wedding to your father, I have to go. She's already backing away, finally meeting my eyes with a smile that doesn't quite fit her face. Joshua's waiting. I watch her hurry down the street, weaving through tourists and shoppers until she disappears around a corner. Only then do I let myself follow. The coffee shop is 3 blocks away, tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing boutique. Through the window, I see Emily slide into a booth across from a woman with familiar copper hair. Karen's back, but she's not lurking in shadows anymore. My phone buzzes. Andrew calling. I silence it, pressing closer to the glass. Emily's animated now, hands moving as she talks, face bright with an enthusiasm I haven't seen in weeks. Karen reaches across the table to touch her daughter's hand, and Emily doesn't pull away. Maya? I spin around to find Lisa standing there, shopping bags in hand, concern etched across her face. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. She glances through the window, then grabs my arm. Come on, you don't need to see this. She's supposed to be at work, I say, allowing Lisa to pull me away. She's been lying about every appointment, hasn't she? Meeting Karen instead of planning the wedding? Maybe it's not what you think. Then what is it? My voice cracks. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my stepdaughter is planning her wedding with the woman who abandoned her, while I write checks and play dress-up with empty boutique appointments. Lisa steers me into the bookstore, away from prying eyes. Have you talked to Andrew about this? He's too afraid of losing her again to see what's happening. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. You know what the worst part is? I actually convinced myself that paying for everything would make a difference, as if I could buy my way into being her mother. Maya. No. I straighten my spine, smooth my hair. Habits from 20 years of business meetings where showing weakness meant losing everything. It's fine. If Emily wants to pretend I don't exist, I can play that game too. What are you going to do? I think about the wedding fund I've set aside, the venues I've researched, the vendors I've contacted, all that careful planning, all those perfectly crafted arrangements just waiting to fall apart. Nothing, I say, but my mind is already calculating angles, identifying pressure points. I'm going to do absolutely nothing. Lisa knows me too well to believe it. Just be careful. Remember who you're dealing with. Oh, I remember. I check my phone. 3 missed calls from Andrew now. I remember everything. Through the bookstore window, I can still see the coffee shop. Emily and Karen are leaving, hugging on the sidewalk like they've never been apart, like the past 8 years never happened. That's fine. They can have their secret meetings and their perfect plans. I'll have my revenge. The email from Karen sits in my inbox like a loaded gun. Subject line, about Emily's wedding. I've been staring at it for 20 minutes, my office growing darker as the sun sets over Chicago's skyline. My finger hovers over delete, but I open it instead. Maya, we should talk. Emily wants both of us involved in the wedding planning. Let's meet at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. The audacity makes my hands shake. I minimize the email as Andrew walks in, loosening his tie. You're home early, I say, closing my laptop. Emily called. He runs a hand through his graying hair. She's upset about something. Says you've been following her? My throat tightens. Did she mention meeting her mother in secret? Andrew's face doesn't change, but his shoulders stiffen. Maya, don't Maya me. How long have you known? It's complicated. Really? I stand, my chair scraping against the hardwood, because it seems pretty simple. Our daughter? My daughter, he cuts in, then immediately looks like he wants to take it back. The words hang between us like shattered glass. 8 years of marriage, of building a family, erased in 2 words. Right, I say, my voice steady despite the roaring in my ears. Your daughter has been lying to us for weeks, sneaking around with the woman who abandoned her, and you're covering for them. Karen made mistakes, but she's still Emily's mother. And what am I? Andrew reaches for me, but I step back. You're my wife. Emily cares about you. She just what? Needs space? Needs time? Needs her real mother? Each question feels like acid on my tongue. When were you planning to tell me? We were waiting for the right moment. We? The laptop screen catches my eye. Karen's email still minimized. How long have you been in contact with her? His silence is answer enough. Perfect. I grab my purse, needing to move, to breathe, to be anywhere but here. Your ex-wife wants to meet tomorrow to discuss the wedding. Maybe you can give her some tips on how to stab me in the back more efficiently. Don't be dramatic. Andrew blocks the doorway. Emily's trying to bridge 2 worlds. The least we can do is support her. Support her? I laugh, the sound sharp enough to make him wince. I've done nothing but support her. I've written checks, planned appointments, swallowed every slight and dismissal because I thought eventually she'd see me as family. But this isn't about Emily anymore, is it? What's that supposed to mean? You never got over Karen leaving. The words taste like truth as soon as I say them. You're using Emily's wedding as an excuse to let her back in. That's ridiculous. Is it? I pull out my phone, open the banking app, because someone's been making regular transfers to an account in Seattle for the past 3 months, right around when Karen conveniently moved back. Andrew's face drains of color. You've been monitoring my accounts? I monitor everything. I show him the screen. Want to explain these payments? Emily asked me. He stops, realizing his mistake too late. Emily asked you to secretly send money to Karen? My voice rises with each word. And you just did it? Without discussing it with me? With our joint accounts? Keep your voice down. Why? Afraid the neighbors will hear what a lying. Enough! Andrew slams his hand against the door frame. You want the truth? Yes, I've been helping Karen. Yes, I knew about the meetings. Because unlike you, I understand that family is complicated. Family? The word tastes like poison. You want to talk about family? I built 30 successful businesses while you played happy reunions with your ex-wife. Every penny in those accounts? That's my family's legacy. And you've been funneling it to the woman who walked out on you. Maya, please. My phone buzzes. A text from Emily. Hope you enjoyed stalking me today. Stay out of my life. Something snaps inside me. I turn back to my laptop, pull up my banking website. What are you doing? Andrew asks, worry creeping into his voice. Supporting my family. I start typing. I'm freezing all our joint accounts, the wedding fund, the savings, everything. Since you and Emily are so close with Karen now, maybe she can pay for the perfect family reunion you're all planning. You can't do this. I meet his eyes, feeling calmer than I have in weeks. Watch me. As I hit enter, I think about Karen's email, her invitation to meet tomorrow. Maybe I'll go after all. It's time everyone understood exactly who they're dealing with. Riverside Cafe bustles with the lunch crowd when Karen slides into the seat across from me. 8 years haven't changed her much. Same copper hair, same practiced smile. She orders chamomile tea like she's settling in for a pleasant chat between old friends. Thank you for meeting me, she says, stirring honey into her cup. I know this isn't easy. I leave my coffee untouched. Let's skip the pleasantries. What do you want? To clear the air, Emily told me about the accounts being frozen. Did she tell you about the secret meetings too? The money Andrew's been sending you? Karen's smile flickers. That was Emily's idea. She wanted to help me get back on my feet. With my money. I assumed Andrew had discussed it with you. She leans forward, voice dropping. Maya, I know you care about Emily. That's why I'm here. There are things you should know about. My phone buzzes. A text from Lisa. 911. Call me now. Excuse me, I say, standing. Family emergency. Karen's laugh stops me cold. Family? Is that what you think you are to Emily? I step outside, dial Lisa's number. Her voice comes through tight with tension. Where are you? Meeting Karen at Riverside. What's wrong? Emily just left my office. She wanted documentation about your salon's ownership structure. The world tilts sideways. What? She said she's working with Joshua's father. He's a corporate lawyer. They're building a case that Andrew has partial ownership rights through your marriage. If they can prove it, they can force a sale during the divorce. My free hand grips the building's brick wall. How long have they been planning this? Maya, there's more. I saw emails on Emily's phone while she was looking through files. Karen's not just back for the wedding. She and Andrew have been seeing each other. The pieces click into place. The money transfers, the secret meetings, they're getting back together. I'm so sorry. Through the cafe window, I see Karen watching me, that same practiced smile in place. 8 years of building a family, and they've been orchestrating its destruction behind my back. Maya, Lisa's voice seems far away. What are you going to do? I end the call, walk back inside. Karen stirring her tea again, the picture of innocence. Everything okay? She asks. You know what's funny? I sit down, finally take a sip of my cold coffee. I actually came here planning to make peace, to be the bigger person. We can still. When did you and Andrew start sleeping together again? The spoon clatters against her cup. That's not. Save it. I know everything. The affair, the plot to claim my businesses, all of it. I lean forward, dropping my voice like she did earlier. But here's what you don't know. Those ownership documents Emily wants, they don't exist. Because unlike Andrew, I learned from my first marriage never to mix business with pleasure. Maya, I built everything I have while you were running away from your responsibilities, and now you think you can waltz back in and take it all? I stand, pulling out my wallet. Tell Emily she just lost her last chance at a relationship with me. And tell Andrew. I drop a 20 on the table. Actually, don't tell Andrew anything. He'll find out soon enough. What does that mean? I'm already walking away when my phone buzzes again. An email from my private investigator, surveillance photos of Andrew and Karen together, dating back months. Bank records showing far more than just those transfers to Seattle. Everything I need. Outside, the spring air feels different now, cleaner, sharper. I dial my lawyer's number. Sandra? Remember when I said I wanted to handle the divorce amicably? I start walking toward my office, each step more purposeful than the last. Change of plans. I want everything, and I want them to hurt. I end the call, look back through the cafe window one last time. Karen's still sitting there, face pale, stirring her tea like it holds the answers she desperately needs. Let her stir. Let them all worry. They thought they could destroy what I built. Instead, they just gave me permission to show them exactly who I am without the facade of family obligation. And unlike Karen, when I walk away from something, I make sure there's nothing left standing. The dinner reservation wasn't mine. I realize this as the maitre d' leads us to a corner table where Karen is already seated, Emily beside her. Andrew's hand tightens on my lower back, steering me forward like a lamb to slaughter. Of course, they planned this. Surprise, Emily says, but her smile doesn't reach her eyes. We thought it was time for a proper family discussion. I slide into my seat, noting the empty wine glasses, the careful arrangement. How long have you been planning this ambush? Maya, Andrew warns, but Karen cuts in. No, she's right. We should be honest. Karen folds her hands on the table. Emily and I have been talking about the wedding, about roles, traditions, expectations. The waiter appears with wine, already ordered, already poured, red like the fury building behind my eyes. And what expectations would those be? I keep my voice level, watching Emily's fingers drum against her water glass. I want my mother to walk me down the aisle, Emily says, with Dad. The words hang there like smoke. Andrew shifts beside me, his guilt a tangible thing. Both of my parents, together. Emily continues, each word deliberate. It's traditional. Traditional? I taste copper, realize I'm biting my cheek. Like traditionally abandoning your child? Or traditionally sleeping with your ex-husband behind his new wife's back? Karen's glass freezes halfway to her lips. Emily's eyes widen. That's enough, Andrew starts, but I'm already pulling out my phone, sliding it across the table. The surveillance photos shine clear on the screen. Karen and Andrew outside her apartment, their embrace anything but parental. When were you planning to mention this part of the tradition? Emily snatches up the phone, color draining from her face. Dad? It's not what you think. Andrew reaches for the phone, but Emily pulls back. Really? My laugh draws looks from nearby tables. Because I think you've been funneling my money to your mistress while plotting to steal my businesses. I think you've all been playing me for a fool. We weren't, Karen starts. Save it. I stand, my chair scraping against hardwood. You want traditions? Here's one. The wicked stepmother finally stopping the princess from making the biggest mistake of her life. What does that mean? Emily's voice shakes. It means Joshua's been asking questions about your secret meetings with Karen, about the money. He came to my office yesterday, worried about what he was marrying into. Emily's face crumples. You talked to Joshua? He deserved to know what kind of family he was joining. Though after our chat, I'm not sure there'll be a wedding to worry about. You had no right. Andrew grabs my arm. I wrench away. Like you had no right to my money, to my trust, to the years I spent trying to be part of this family? Maya, please. Karen reaches across the table. We can work this out. Work what out? How to divide the spoils? How to explain to your daughter why her parents are sneaking around like teenagers? I grab my purse. Or maybe how to tell your fiancé that your mother abandoned you because she was sleeping with her boss, not because of depression like everyone thought? Karen recoils like I've slapped her. Emily turns to her, questions forming on her lips. That's right, I continue, venom rising. Ask her about Richard Thompson. Ask her why she really left Seattle. Stop it! Andrew stands, fury finally breaking through his careful facade. Or what? You'll divorce me? Take my money? Too late. I pull out another phone, my business line. While you were all plotting here, my lawyers were filing papers. The accounts aren't just frozen anymore. They're gone. Transferred to offshore holdings even Emily's future father-in-law can't touch. You can't do this, Emily whispers. I already have. I turn to leave, then pause. Oh, and Karen, Richard sends his regards. His wife was very interested in those old emails you thought you deleted. I walk away to the sound of breaking glass. Emily's whine, knocked over as she lunges for her phone, probably trying to reach Joshua. Let her try. Some traditions are meant to be broken. Outside, my hands shake as I dial Lisa's number. Is it done? She asks. Almost. I watch through the window as my carefully orchestrated destruction unfolds. Tell Sandra to proceed with phase 2. It's time everyone learned what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. The night air feels electric against my skin, charged with the promise of revenge. They wanted a proper family discussion? Fine, let's see how they handle having all their secrets laid bare. The photographs spread across my desk like fallen leaves. Surveillance shots of Andrew and Karen, bank statements, emails, evidence of betrayal laid bare in black and white. The bottle of scotch beside them is half empty, but I'm still too sober for this. A knock at my office door. Joshua stands there, looking younger than his 26 years. You wanted to see me? I gesture to the chair across from me. Have you talked to Emily? She's not taking my calls. He sits, eyes catching on the photos. Is that her parents? Yes, quite the reunion. I slide the bank statements toward him. And here's where my money went. Your future father-in-law must be proud of his legal strategy. Joshua's face pales. I didn't know about any of this. Emily said the wedding fund was just the beginning. I pour another drink. They wanted everything. My businesses, my properties, my reputation. One big happy family taking down the wicked stepmother. I can talk to her, make her understand. That's not why I called you here. I pull out a manila envelope. These are copies of everything, bank records, photos, emails, including ones between Emily and Karen plotting how to use your father's firm against me. Take them. His hands shake as he accepts the envelope. Why are you giving me this? Because you deserve to know who you're really marrying. I stand, walk to the window overlooking the city. Emily's not the victim here. She's her mother's daughter. Maya, my phone buzzes. Andrew's name on the screen. The 10th call today. I silence it. They're holding a family dinner tonight, Joshua says quietly, to discuss the wedding. Emily wants me there, to make peace. I turn back to him, catch my reflection in the window. Designer suit, perfect makeup, empty eyes. Another ambush? Probably. He stands, envelope clutched tight. What are you going to do? What they least expect. After he leaves, I call Lisa. Is everything ready? Maya, please think about this. Once you do this, is everything ready? A pause. Yes, the papers are filed. The press release goes out at 9 tomorrow morning. Good. I check my watch. Time to crash a family dinner. The restaurant is different this time. Karen's choice, no doubt. More casual, less witnesses. They're all there when I arrive. Andrew, Karen, Emily, Joshua, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Even Lisa, invited to play mediator. Emily sees me first. You weren't invited. Funny, neither was Karen 8 years ago. I sit, order whiskey neat. But here we are. Maya, Andrew starts, we need to talk about the divorce, the lawsuit, or how about Karen's old boss in Seattle? I smile as Karen flinches. No? Then let's talk about tomorrow's press release. Emily straightens. What press release? The one announcing that my entire salon empire is being donated to a trust supporting abandoned children, every property, every asset, all going to help kids whose parents threw them away. Silence drops like a bomb. You can't, Andrew whispers. Those businesses are mine, solely mine, documented and verified by 3 separate law firms. I take a slow sip of whiskey. You can't steal what doesn't exist anymore. This is insane, Emily's voice cracks. You're destroying everything just to hurt us? No, sweetheart. I'm destroying everything because you already hurt me. I stand, steady despite the alcohol. The trust launches tomorrow. The divorce papers are filed, and Karen's old emails to Richard go public next week. Game over. Wait, Lisa grabs my arm. There's something you don't know. I know enough. I pull free, face my shattered family one last time. You wanted me gone. Congratulations. You win, but I'm taking everything with me. I'm halfway to the door when Emily's voice stops me. Mom. For a moment, my heart stops, but she's looking at Karen, tears streaming down her face. Tell her, Emily pleads, tell her the truth about Richard. I turn back, see Karen's face crumple, see Andrew reach for her hand. Maya, Karen whispers, Richard wasn't my boss. He was my brother, and he's Emily's real father. The whiskey glass slips from my hand, shatters against the floor. The sound echoes like everything I thought I knew, breaking apart piece by piece. The press release sits in my draft folder, waiting for dawn. One click and everything I've built becomes a weapon against my own family. My phone lights up with another message from Lisa. Richard's here, coming to your office. Don't do anything until... I delete it without reading further. The bottle of scotch is empty now, but my hands are steady as I pull up the transfer documents. One signature and it's done. No going back. The door opens. I don't need to look up to know it's not Lisa. Hello, Maya. Richard's voice is exactly like Karen's. Same careful tone, same hidden edges. Come to defend your sister's honor? I keep typing, refusing to meet his eyes. Or just here to watch the fallout? I'm here to tell you the truth. He sits without invitation. About Emily, about why Karen left. Save it. I've heard enough family secrets for one lifetime. Have you? Papers slide across my desk. Old medical records, DNA tests. Andrew knew from the beginning. That's why Karen ran, not because of an affair, but because he threatened to expose everything if she didn't leave. My fingers freeze over the keyboard. You're lying. Am I? Check the dates. The payment started right after Emily was born. Andrew's been blackmailing us for 24 years. The documents blur before my eyes. Dates, amounts, threats carefully worded as business arrangements. All leading back to Andrew's private accounts, the same accounts he used to pay Karen now. Why come forward now? Because you're about to destroy the wrong person. Richard leans forward. Karen didn't come back for Andrew. She came back because I'm dying. Emily deserves to know her real father before it's too late. My phone buzzes again. Andrew's name. This time, I answer. It's done. His voice comes through tight with triumph. Board meeting's over. They've accepted your resignation. Effective immediately. Your empire's gone, Maya. Should have played nice with family. I look at Richard, see Karen's eyes staring back at me. You're right about that. The elevator dings outside my office. Footsteps approach, multiple sets. You're just in time, I say into the phone. We're having a family reunion. Andrew appears in this doorway, Emily and Karen behind him. Their smiles fade when they see Richard. What is he doing here? Andrew's voice shakes. Funny story. I stand, finally feeling clear-headed. I just learned some interesting things about family loyalty. Want to explain the blackmail payments, Andrew? Or should we let Emily read the proof herself? Emily steps forward. What payments? Maya, Andrew warns, but I'm already pulling up the records on my screen. Your father, your real father, has quite a paper trail. 24 years of payments to keep him away, to keep Karen quiet, to maintain the perfect family image. I turn the screen toward Emily, all while using my money to pay for his silence. Dad? Emily's voice cracks. What is she talking about? It's complicated, Andrew starts, but Karen cuts him off. No more lies. She moves to Richard's side. Emily, we wanted to tell you so many times, but Andrew threatened to ruin us all, Richard finishes. Used Maya's success to keep funding his schemes. The perfect plan until Maya started asking questions. Emily sways, grabs the door frame for support. All this time, you knew. I did it for you. Andrew reaches for her, but she recoils. The board meeting was fake, wasn't it? I laugh, the sound harsh in the quiet room. Just like your threats about my resignation. You never had that power. Maya, no. I pull up another screen. While you were playing Happy Families, I was tracking every penny, every threat, every lie. The FBI is very interested in long-term blackmail schemes, Andrew, especially ones involving corporate funds. The color drains from his face. You wouldn't. I already did. Red and blue lights flash through the window. They're here for the evidence, all of it, including your private servers. Emily turns to Karen, to Richard, tears streaming. Why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you tell me? Because that's what real parents do, I say quietly. They protect their children, no matter the cost. The elevator dings again. Federal agents pour into the outer office. Maya, Andrew pleads, we can fix this. I look at my shattered family, the lies, the betrayals, the hidden truths, finally exposed. No, Andrew, we can't. But we can end it. I press send on the press release, not to announce a donation, but to tell the real story, all of it. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about the truth. The courtroom empties slowly, whispers trailing in its wake. Andrew's shoulders slump as the bailiff leads him away. No final glance, no last-minute plea. Just silence and the echo of the judge's verdict, 8 years for fraud and extortion. I gather my papers, feeling lighter than I have in months. Not victorious. Victory implies there was something to win. This was about survival. Maya, Emily stands in the aisle, fingers twisting the strap of her purse. She looks more like Karen than ever, but there's something different in her eyes, something harder. The trust paperwork is ready, I say, keeping my voice neutral. Everything's set up for Richard's treatment. That's not why I'm here. She slides into the bench beside me. I found the letters, the ones you wrote me every birthday, even after I stopped speaking to you. My hands still. Those letters were never meant to be found. Yearly confessions of love, hope, and eventually grief, stored in a box Andrew was supposed to have destroyed. Joshua and I postponed the wedding, she continues. I need time to figure out who I am without all the lies. Smart choice. I learned from you. A ghost of a smile touches her lips. You could have destroyed us all, but you chose the truth instead, even when it hurt. The truth was revenge enough. Lisa appears at the courtroom door, Karen and Richard behind her. The family that could have been, waiting for the daughter they all failed. I don't know how to forgive any of you yet, Emily says, standing. But I'd like to try. She walks away before I can respond, joining her parents, both sets of them, in the doorway. They move together like planets finding a new orbit, leaving me in the empty courtroom with my hollow victory. My phone buzzes, a news alert about Andrew's conviction. Below it, a message from my lawyer about the divorce settlement. Everything's finished. Clean, complete. So why does it feel like I'm still waiting for something? The answer comes in a small envelope left on my desk that evening. Inside, a single photograph. Emily at 8 years old, grinning at the camera in a Halloween costume I helped her make. On the back, in her adult handwriting, some family bonds survive even when they're built on lies. Thank you for showing me the difference. I trace the words, remembering the girl who once called me mom, who trusted me before ambition and betrayal poisoned everything, the daughter I lost in my quest for justice. The phone rings, the board of directors, wanting to discuss the future of my salons now that the scandal's settled. I should answer, should dive back into the empire I protected so fiercely. Instead, I pull out a fresh sheet of paper and begin to write. Dear Emily, there are no good guys in this story. We all chose revenge over love at some point. But maybe that's not the end. The words flow easier now, without agenda or anger. Just truth, offered without expectation of forgiveness. Sometimes that's all family can give each other. I seal the letter, add it to the box of undelivered ones. Maybe someday she'll read them all. Maybe she won't. The choice is hers now. My office window overlooks the city where I built everything I thought I wanted. Success, power, control. The lights blur as evening settles, each one a different kind of truth waiting to be uncovered. Lisa calls, probably to check if I'm okay. I let it ring. Some questions don't have answers yet. Some wounds need time before they can become scars. The last light fades from my office, leaving only reflections. In the glass, I see myself. Not the vengeful warrior or the wounded stepmother, but something in between. Someone who finally understands that real power isn't in destroying what hurts us, but in choosing when to let it go. I leave the letterbox on my desk, unlocked. Tomorrow, Emily will come to sign the final trust documents. She'll see it, recognize her name on decades of unopened envelopes. What she does next will be her choice. Sometimes revenge isn't about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about finding the courage to stop fighting long enough to see what's left standing in the aftermath. I turn off the lights and walk away, leaving the door open behind me.
15 years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me with his childhood friend and even had a child with her, which led to our divorce. Following the separation, his affair partner harassed me relentlessly, forcing me to quit my job. At my lowest point, my current husband stepped in and saved me. Together, we've built a happy family and live a peaceful life. But our bliss was disrupted unexpectedly when I ran into my ex-husband, the man who abandoned me all those years ago. Still single, aren't you? No one would marry a woman who can't have kids. You can't say anything but nasty comments, can you? Unlike someone, my son is adorable like his mother, he taunted, wearing a smug smile. I replied, oh really? He is quite cute. Let me introduce you to my kids. As I introduced my son, my ex-husband's smile vanished and he started to tremble. My name is Emily Johnson. I'm 38 years old and live with my 13-year-old son Kyle, my 11-year-old daughter Lily, and my husband Mike, who is the same age as me. Kyle, a middle school freshman, is currently going through his rebellious phase. He's been quite mouthy lately, but when he gets out of line, Mike steps in to set him straight. Lily loves makeup and fashion. She's quite the little fashionista. Being the youngest, she's very skilled at getting her way. Kyle, who adores his sister, quickly panics and apologizes whenever she says, if you're not nice to Mom, I'll start disliking you. He hastily responds, sorry. Look, I'll get along with Mom, okay. He's honest and always lightens the mood. Despite the noise, we live happily. Actually, I'm divorced and this is my second marriage. My first marriage ended because of my ex-husband's despicable betrayal. 15 years ago, John and I were in a senior-junior relationship in college, and we shared a wonderful connection, surrounded by mutual friends. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and we soon got married, both eager to start a family. We often talked about how delightful it would be to have children, even dreaming of dressing them in matching outfits. However, reality was not so kind, and a year went by without any sign of a child. Each month, when my period came, it added strain to our relationship, something neither of us welcomed. We had numerous discussions and underwent expensive fertility treatments. But despite being told there was nothing medically wrong, our marriage did not improve. At first, John was supportive and cooperative, but as time passed without a child, his attitude towards me began to change. He would make sarcastic remarks like, when will I ever become a father? As if it was entirely my fault that we didn't have kids. He gradually stopped helping with household chores, leaving all the cooking, dishwashing, laundry, and cleaning to me. When I asked him, why have you suddenly stopped helping with the chores? You used to help, he retorted. Since you're infertile, if you don't at least do the housework, you're not fulfilling your role as a woman. What's the point of our marriage then? His words became increasingly cutting over time. My sister and her husband are already expecting their second child. Isn't that great? They're on their second, And we don't even have our first, right? He would say, glaring at me with harsh eyes, mocking and despising me. If you had a normal body, I would have been a father long ago. How can you say I'm not normal when we don't even know the cause yet? I responded, trying to keep my composure. But John shot back, infertility is always the woman's fault. Don't you even know that? If I had known you were infertile, I would never have married you. Show some remorse. His words pierced my heart. Adding to my distress, I began receiving calls from my in-laws, pressuring me with comments like, "We want to see our grandchild soon." Initially, I tried to brush it off, saying, "It's only been a year. These things take time." However, that approach seemed to backfire as my mother-in-law's attitude became increasingly harsh. She'd remark, "You're useless if you can't have children." My daughter had one right away. "You're the only defective one." The pressure mounted every day. One day, my close friend Sarah invited me out for drinks. John had been claiming he was busy with work and coming home late, so I thought a break would do me good and accepted the invitation. During our outing, Sarah revealed a shocking truth. "I've wanted to see you for a long time, Emily. There's something I need to tell you," she said, looking serious. "I've missed you too. So, what did you want to talk about?" I asked, curious and a bit anxious. "Emily, do you remember Jessica?" Jessica was John's childhood friend. They grew up next to each other and their parents were close. Jessica and I attended the same university, and now she works at my company as the president's daughter, securing her job through connections. We weren't particularly close in college, being in different clubs and departments, and our interactions at work were minimal. John once introduced her to me with the words, "She's my girlfriend, so be nice to her." But she glared at me, possibly not wanting to lose her childhood friend. I assumed she disliked me and kept my distance. Tall and beautiful, she was popular enough to compete in beauty pageants in college and was somewhat of a celebrity at the company, known as the president's beautiful daughter. Jessica. Oh, John's childhood friend. Yes, I know her. She's stunning. We work at the same company, but we don't interact much. What about her? I asked, trying to stay calm. Well, it's hard to say, but I think your husband John and Jessica are having an affair, Sarah said, her voice heavy with concern. What? I was stunned, as if struck by lightning. I saw them the other day. They were walking hand in hand, not like just friends. That can't be. You should check it out and call me if anything happens, okay? Thanks for telling me. I had a growing suspicion that John was cheating. His attitude towards me had been terrible, and he always came home late claiming to be working overtime. On weekends, he said he was entertaining clients and wouldn't be home. I had a vague idea but pretended not to notice. That day, after parting ways with Sarah, I went straight to a private investigator, determined to gather evidence of my husband's infidelity. It took less than a week to collect the proof, but I wasn't ready to decide on a divorce right away. No matter how terrible a husband he was the person I once vowed to spend my life with. I couldn't decide on such a drastic step immediately. A few days later, I returned home to find John, who usually came home late, sitting at the dining table. "Oh, you're home." "Yeah, I thought you'd be late today as usual," I said, deliberately adding a touch of sarcasm. "Yeah, sorry about that. I need to talk to you." After hearing about the affair from Sarah, I had a sinking feeling in my gut. I want a divorce. What? That's when it hit me. John wasn't just fooling around with Jessica, he was serious. Jessica's pregnant, so I'm going to marry her. Jessica, your childhood friend? You said she was just a friend, and now she's pregnant. You were having an affair. Don't call it an affair. It makes me sound like a scumbag. It can't be helped, right? Jessica can actually get pregnant, and she's beautiful. There's no reason for me to choose you over her. I was stunned by John's brazen attitude. He seemed completely unrepentant. I was so shocked that I couldn't find the words to respond. Seeing my silence, John scoffed. Even my mom kept nagging me to divorce you. She always liked Jessica more. She's beautiful, kind, and can have kids. My mom will be happy with this. It became clear that my mother-in-law and John had always preferred Jessica. The sadness was overwhelming, and tears began to flow. Well, I've packed my things and I need to leave for the sake of the child that's about to be born, John said, and then he walked out of the house. I didn't have the energy to stop him. A few days later, I received divorce papers with a note attached, written by a woman. Please divorce my husband quickly. The contradictory message made question marks pop up in my head. I wanted to shout, "You're the one who stole my husband." Seeing those words, I finally realized the situation clearly. Why was I the one being blamed? I could have just passively accepted the divorce. With that thought, I gathered the evidence from the private investigator and filed for divorce mediation. A few days after filing, I received a call from an unknown number. Curious about who it might be, I answered and heard a woman's voice screaming, "What do you think you're doing? Why are you suing us?" It was Jessica, the affair partner. "Well, it's obvious, isn't it? I know all about your infidelity. It's only natural for me to ask for alimony," I replied calmly. "You have a baby in your belly. You're really going to demand money at a time when we'll need it most. Who's the real monster here?" she retorted, her voice high-pitched and shrill, making my ears ring. "You sleep with a married man and have the nerve to say that to me? It's your fault for being infertile, you terrible woman," I shot back, my voice steady despite her screams. "Anyway, I intend to settle this divorce, including alimony, in court. Let's discuss this further in the proper setting." With that, I hung up the phone. Thanks to the evidence I had gathered, the mediation recognized John and Jessica's relationship as adultery. John and Jessica, unhappy with this, tried to blame my infertility, but it was dismissed as unreasonable since no test results had confirmed me as the cause within just a year of marriage. I received $4,000 in alimony from John and $20,000 from Jessica, both paid in one lump sum. I didn't want a prolonged, messy payment schedule or any lingering connection to them. This is how our divorce was finalized. However, my suffering didn't end there. Since John, Jessica, and I all attended the same university, the affair scandal quickly became the talk of the town. According to a close friend, the rumor was that I had hidden my infertility to trick John into marriage. Some people even sympathized with John and Jessica. How awful! Jessica and I worked at the same company, and she spread baseless rumors there too. Everyone sided with her because she was beautiful and the boss's daughter. She tearfully played the victim, claiming, "Emily is such a terrible person, taking money from us for alimony when we're about to have a child," even though she hid her infertility. At first, I tried to ignore it, but Jessica's status as the boss's daughter meant she received preferential treatment. My boss would scold me, saying, "Don't be mean to Jessica," and despite my hard work, I was gradually excluded from major projects. Eventually, I felt mentally cornered and decided to resign. While searching for a new job, I received a headhunting offer from another company. They said, "We need someone as diligent and talented as you." At my new job, I was amazed at how freely I could work. My new boss paid close attention to each employee, and there was no favoritism or nepotism like at my previous company. I found myself drawn to this wonderful boss. That's how I met my current husband, Mike. When I was at my lowest after the terrible split from my ex-husband, he kindly supported me. After several dinners together, we started to talk not just about work but about our personal lives as well, and our relationship developed. Things progressed well between us, and thankfully, Mike proposed to me. However, having been rejected by my ex-husband for my infertility, I carried many fears about marriage and confided in Mike that I might be infertile. Looking at me earnestly, Mike said, "Of course, I'd be happy if we could have a child together in the future, but the most important thing is that I love you, Emily. You're important to me, so even if we can't have children, I will always be by your side." He hugged me gently. I was so happy that I knew I wanted to spend my life with this man and decided to marry Mike. Soon after our marriage, we had our first child, Kyle, followed by our daughter, Lily. Perhaps the issue with my ex-husband was just a matter of timing or compatibility. Raising children is hard, but we're living happily. Then, one day, I attended a friend's wedding. During the ceremony, as it was time for greetings and mingling, I stepped out to use the bathroom and unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband, John, whom I hadn't seen in 15 years. Why is he here? I panicked for a moment, my mind going blank, but then I remembered that the bride and groom were college friends. It made sense for John to be there. I tried to ignore him and walk past, but he called out loudly, "Hey." So he noticed me. "What, you've put on weight, haven't you? It's been so long since I've seen you." John, seemingly drunk, spoke loudly and spat as he talked. "You haven't changed a bit," I thought to myself, still as unpleasant as ever. Then John called his family over. There was Jessica and their son. Seeing my face, Jessica smirked and said, "Oh, it's been a while. Have you gained weight? Stress eating, maybe? Must be tough. I bet you're still an infertile woman with no one to take you, right?" I was dumbfounded by their rude behavior and struggled to find words to respond. I noticed their son, hanging his head and blushing with embarrassment. He had very handsome features. Ah, I forgot to introduce him. This is my son. As you can see, he's cute like Jessica, right? Jessica proudly bragged about their son. He's handsome, smart, a real genius. Sorry to say, it seems like we're the only happy ones here. They praised their son and looked down at me with smug smiles. However, their son seemed unhappy with his parents' behavior, visibly displeased with their belittling of someone else. He must be a very kind boy, I thought, but I had no time to deal with them. As I turned to leave, John grabbed my arm tightly, stopping me. So you caused our divorce because of your infertility, and then you have the nerve to extort money from us? John was still holding a grudge about something that happened 15 years ago. If anyone should hold a grudge, it's me. Then Jessica also turned to me and said, "Yeah, you're a single infertile woman. Why would you need money? Families with children like us need it more, don't you think? Pay us back double the amount you took from us." At that moment, I was dumbstruck by such selfish remarks, speechless until John and Jessica's son spoke up. "Single means unmarried, right? But she's wearing a wedding ring on her left hand," pointed out by their son. John and Jessica stared intently at the ring on my left ring finger. "What, you're married?" John and Jessica's loud exclamations drew stares from the surrounding people. I was mortified. As I pondered what to do, I caught sight of a familiar face. "You shouldn't be so loud at a celebration like this. It's disturbing others. Maybe you should be more considerate." "Mom, who are these scary-looking people?" "Mom, you're late coming back." "Mom, you have kids?" "Yes, I do. Let me introduce them. This is my son, Kyle, and my daughter, Lily." John seemed speechless, shocked that his ex-wife, whom he thought was infertile, had 2 children. Jessica was staring intently at my son. After a moment, she muttered in a strange voice, "That uniform." She seemed fixated on my son's attire. "Ah, he came straight from school with his dad." "It's not about that. That's the uniform of that famous private middle school." "Huh? Oh yes, Kyle's attending the prestigious private middle school." Yes, Kyle excelled in his studies and was attending a well-known local private school. "It can't be. A child of yours at that school. And my daughter too. She plans to take the exam for the same school next year." "That's right. And you know what? Kyle is amazing. He won a violin competition." "Violin? I thought I recognized this boy. Wasn't he on TV recently?" "Ah, you saw that. Yes, he's been getting a lot of media attention lately. Today, he's coming back from violin practice." "Impossible. That can't be." John and Jessica were left gaping, frozen in shock. "You were supposed to be infertile. How could you have such?" I calmly addressed John's confusion. "I'm glad to see you two seem happy. As you can see, I'm filled with happiness too. Let's not involve each other anymore. We have nothing to do with each other now." As I was about to leave with my children, my husband Mike appeared. "Hey, what's going on here? The main event is about to start again." Seeing my husband, John's face turned pale. "President Smith." Jessica, too, upon seeing my husband, turned white and trembled. "Your husband is Smith, the young CEO of ABC Corporation who got the job last year, right?" "Actually, my husband Mike works as the CEO of the parent company of Jessica's father's company. He was job hunting when the parent company approached him for a position, and that's how he switched jobs. I met Mike there, a man who was already popular and skilled. Last year, he was recommended by the then CEO and took over the role." "Yeah, it's Smith. But what's with this atmosphere? What happened?" Sensing the uneasy tension, my husband Mike looked puzzled. That's when Kyle spoke up. "These people were saying mean things about our mom, calling her infertile and fat, so Lily and I came to help her." They heard it. Kyle and Lily had overheard my ex-husband and his wife making rude comments about me. That's why Kyle had spoken up like that. "You guys are those." The word infertile seemed to click something in Mike's mind, and his expression turned grim. I had heard rumors, but I never imagined they were this insensitive. Then John suddenly started to defend himself to Mike. "No, I mean Mr. Smith, I would never say anything bad about your wife, right, Jessica? Why are you groveling so much? She's just his wife, right? I was the one who got yelled at by my father and suffered a lot because you made me pay her money for our affair. I'll never forgive you now." "Jessica, what are you saying? If he dislikes us, our subcontracting company is finished. Think about that. Realizing it was bad to be disliked by the CEO of their parent company, John started to flatter Mike, but Jessica, not satisfied, started arguing with him. What a ridiculous scene. Then John and Jessica's son, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. Stop it. Listening to you both is terrible. You're saying awful things about her, calling her fat and infertile, and now demanding money back. I'm ashamed. And what about this affair? Am I a child born out of an affair? Am I unwanted? His voice cracked with tears. John and Jessica started to fumble for words. Well, that's not. As I realized the guests were staring at us, Jessica, noticing their gazes, blushed and looked down. Although I still can't forgive John and Jessica, their son seems to be a just and kind boy. He's innocent in all this. Thinking this, I was about to comfort their son when my husband Mike spoke first. Thank you. You stood up for my wife. You really are a kind boy, he said, gently patting the boy's head. I followed with a smile. But maybe I am a bit overweight. That's not true. Well, actually, I'm pregnant. My belly is getting bigger, I said, stroking my belly. I'm currently pregnant with our third child and on maternity leave. Seeing the boy with tears in his eyes, I added, your mom took great care of you in her belly, just like this. You're not unwanted. Your parents love you and are proud of you, right? I looked at John and Jessica. The boy then asked them, really? In a hurry? They both nodded vigorously and said, yeah, you're our pride and joy. Absolutely. You mean everything to us. At this, the boy immediately broke into a wide smile. Seeing their son smile, I also felt a sense of relief. Let's just remember that today is a day for celebration. Let's all head back to our seats. Saying this, each family returned to their respective seats, and so the turbulent scene came to a close. As the wedding ended and we were heading to the station, Jessica and John approached, holding hands with their son. Kyle and Lily had been intimidating the two who had insulted me, but Mike calmed them down with a wry smile. We're sorry. We're really sorry. It's too late, but for everything before and for today, we're truly sorry. And thanks for earlier for our son. It was the first apology I had heard from them in over 15 years. Perhaps even people as terrible as them had changed a little after having a child. I laughed. Really, it's too late now. Well then. With just that, I turned and started walking away. Kyle offered to carry my bags. Lily said, here, and draped a jacket over my shoulders. Even as children, they were considerate of my pregnancy. All right, how about we make Dad's favorite hamburgers for dinner tonight? Kyle and Lily's favorite. Yay. Thank you. With a vow to protect the smiles of my beloved family, I was moving away from the pains of the past. I received a call informing me that my husband Mike had been in a serious fall and was rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, the doctor assured me that the surgery had been successful, but Mike was still unconscious. He could wake up soon, or it might take a year, or even 10. Overwhelmed by the news, I sank to my knees, consumed by despair. The following day, my nephew Tyler, whom I hadn't seen in years, came to the hospital. He handed me a letter from Mike, which he said Mike had entrusted him with some time ago. Tyler urged me to read it privately. As I read the letter, I was stunned by its contents, which revealed an unimaginable confession from Mike. To confirm its truth, I decided to check the details with Mike personally. As I examined him, I discovered evidence that corroborated the letter's shocking claims. Mike's secret was out, and it changed everything in an instant. Mike and I had married young, drawn together by a deep connection. As I began to enjoy my career, I expressed my desire to continue working after marriage, and Mike supported my decision. Over the years, we remained very close. Before I turned 30, I shared my wish to have children with Mike, and he was equally eager to start a family. We then began trying to conceive. A sudden tragedy struck when Mike's father, who had been voluntarily institutionalized, passed away. We had visited him regularly, with our last visit just 2 weeks earlier when he had seemed perfectly fine. His sudden death was a profound shock, leaving us devastated and unable to eat. During his lifetime, my father-in-law had been a great help to us. Mike and I married in our early 20s when our finances were modest. Initially, we were greatly supported by food supplies from my in-laws. Over time, our financial situation improved enough for us to consider starting a family and repaying my father-in-law for his generosity. Just as he decided to move into a facility, my mother-in-law had passed away 2 years earlier, and we felt a strong need to repay our debt to him, as we hadn't been able to do so for her. When my mother-in-law passed away, Mike and I offered to live with his father, but he insisted that he didn't want to burden us, a young couple, and opted to live in a facility supported by his savings. When he moved, he sold the family home and land, likely using the proceeds for his care. He once mentioned wanting to leave a living inheritance to Mike, saying he had more than enough money for his remaining years. Mike, preferring not to worry about it, encouraged him to spend it as he wished and declined the inheritance. Who could have foreseen that my father-in-law would pass away so soon after my mother-in-law? Mike regretted not insisting on living together and not repaying his father's kindness, but we couldn't dwell on that forever. The ordeal of my mother-in-law's death was about to repeat itself. Mike has an older sister who has been problematic, and I had barely met her. When my mother-in-law died, she was solely focused on the inheritance, showing no concern for our grieving father-in-law or us. Even before the funeral, she demanded her share of the inheritance in a commanding tone. To quiet his demanding daughter, my father-in-law gave her what he called severance money, under the condition that she never show her face to him again. We interpreted this as a form of disownement. Since then, she hasn't contacted or appeared before him, and he hasn't disclosed his whereabouts to her. Mike and I were unaware of the sale of his parents' house, which meant his sister likely hadn't visited either. She probably didn't know the house and land had already been sold. Given her personality, she might demand a share of the sale proceeds once she finds out. While we could keep my father-in-law's death a secret, dealing with her complaints later would be problematic. Therefore, we decided to contact her and divide everything equally to avoid future conflicts. The issue was the will. My father-in-law was deeply concerned about her behavior after his death. He mentioned needing to leave a clear will to prevent her from acting rashly. He had planned to meet with a lawyer about this, which I heard about during our last meeting 2 weeks ago, but he passed away before he could make those arrangements. Mike had to reach out to her, so he called her mobile, unsure if she'd answer. After several rings, she picked up. Mike bypassed the greetings and got straight to the point, informing her of our father-in-law's death, the funeral arrangements, and the inheritance details. As the conversation continued, Mike's irritation grew. His sister has a loud voice, and I could hear her clearly through the phone. She stated she couldn't attend the funeral but insisted on her share of the inheritance, showing no signs of mourning for her father-in-law. Despite his frustration, Mike tried to stay calm, but it felt like she dominated the conversation. After hanging up, Mike was visibly upset. He mentioned that she had apparently divorced and that we would discuss the inheritance distribution after the funeral. Mike was particularly concerned about his nephew, her son. She mentioned her divorce, but there was no mention of how or where her son was. Every time Mike tried to bring him up, the conversation was quickly steered back to the inheritance issue. Mike believed it was best if his sister didn't attend the funeral to avoid a repeat of the chaos that occurred at my mother-in-law's service. I agreed to stay silent if that was his preference. We were overwhelmed with the funeral arrangements and other post-funeral procedures. During this time, she called almost daily about the inheritance. Initially, Mike explained things patiently, but as time went on, he began to ignore her calls, responding only with brief, uninterested replies. Frustrated with her incessant calls, Mike decided to meet her, and she suddenly became very cheerful about the situation. I felt uneasy and wanted to accompany him, but he insisted on meeting her alone. For the past 2 years, I had been helping with all the arrangements and procedures following the deaths of Mike's parents. He felt it wasn't right to involve me further with his sister and the inheritance distribution. He assured me he'd handle it and asked me not to worry. Trusting his words, I decided to wait and see how things would unfold. I had initially planned to join him, but a sudden surge in work at my company made it impossible to align my schedule with his. So, Mike went to meet her alone as planned. That day was incredibly busy at work, with everyone focused on their tasks in silence. During my break, I couldn't shake off the worry about Mike. I tried to return to work, convincing myself that no news was good news. Then suddenly, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but the hospital's name appeared on the screen. Modern phones display the sender's name even if the number isn't saved, especially if it's from a significant institution. Mike and I have always been proud of our good health, with very few hospital visits. The hospital calling was the same one my mother-in-law had frequented years before her death, but I couldn't fathom why they'd be contacting me now. After a moment's hesitation, I answered the call. The nurse introduced herself and confirmed the hospital's name. After verifying Mike's name, she asked if I was his wife. Upon confirming, she informed me that Mike had been urgently brought to the hospital and that they needed me to come quickly. I explained the situation to my boss and left work early. When I arrived, Mike was still undergoing treatment. A nurse quickly briefed me on his condition, informing me that he needed emergency surgery. I was asked to provide consent and sign various documents, which left me feeling overwhelmed and numb. The nurse, noticing my state, spoke sternly yet kindly. "You need to pull yourself together. Your husband is fighting to live." Her words snapped me out of my daze. Mike was fighting for his life, and the doctors were working tirelessly to save him. I gave myself a small slap to regain my composure and followed the nurse's instructions, signing the necessary documents. Thanks to the doctor's efforts, they indicated there was a high chance Mike would regain consciousness, which brought me some relief, though I remained on edge. As I arranged the essentials for his hospital stay and contacted various people, it wasn't until late at night that I could finally sit beside him. Feeling the warmth of his hand, I was overwhelmed with relief that he was alive. Tears flowed freely, and since it was just us in the room, I allowed them to. Holding his hand tightly, I kept talking to him, hoping for his consciousness to return, but he remained unresponsive throughout the night. A nurse suggested I take a rest, but I refused to leave his side, determined to stay by him. Around noon the next day, Mike's sister unexpectedly appeared in the room. This was the first time I had seen her since my mother-in-law's funeral. We exchanged a brief nod, but I couldn't help wondering why she was there. I had informed a few relatives and work colleagues about Mike's condition, but she wasn't among them. Considering the issues at my mother-in-law's funeral, I knew no other relatives had been in contact with her either. Essentially, she had been ostracized by the family and our father-in-law. Why was she here? Pondering alone was futile. I asked her how she knew about the hospital. It's common to hear stories about someone spotting a known person at a hospital, but I hadn't stepped out of Mike's room. It was impossible for her to have seen me anywhere else in the hospital.
Does it even matter? What's going on with him? Is he brain dead? Does it look like he'll make it, huh? Her question, assuming brain death based on his unconscious state, seemed incredibly insensitive. Shouldn't a normal reaction involve asking about his safety or his chances of recovery? She seemed to have already given up hope. So he hasn't regained consciousness. Guess he doesn't have long then. Since I made the effort to come here, you should at least cover my travel and meal expenses. Her attitude was infuriating. I hadn't invited her, and yet she had the audacity to demand compensation for her unwanted visit. Struggling to keep my irritation hidden, I reminded myself that we were in a hospital, surrounded by other patients and close to the nurse's station. The last thing I wanted was to create a scene in front of Mike. I pulled out a bit more money than necessary from my wallet and handed it to her, anticipating her dissatisfaction with a lesser amount. I didn't want to engage in further conversation with her at this moment. Seemingly satisfied with the amount, she left the room with a light step, mentioning she was going to eat. But just as she left, she stopped and called her son into the room. "You know who this is, right? My son, your nephew. I'm going to eat, so look after him for me," she commanded, her tone authoritative, before swiftly walking away from the hospital room, her heels clicking sharply on the floor. She moved so quickly that I didn't even have a chance to respond. The boy left behind seemed hesitant at first but then approached me with a determined look. "Hi. I have something Uncle asked me to give you." The boy seemed to be referring to Mike. He gestured for privacy, so I crouched down to his level. He pulled something from his pocket and handed it to me. "Uncle said to give this to you without Mom knowing. He said if I do well, I might be able to live with Dad. I did it right, didn't I?" I patted his head a few times, assuring him he had done well. The item he handed me was a crumpled piece of paper, torn from a notebook. I quickly unfolded it and began to read. Mike and his sister were initially supposed to meet at a cafe, but on the day of their meeting, she suddenly called him to her house. Mike wrote that he sensed something was wrong and decided to document the events while watching for an opportunity. He mentioned a mysterious injury he had sustained around the time of his mother's death, which was news to me. It seemed he had treated it himself without my knowledge. The letter made me wonder why he was bringing this up now. As I continued reading, an unbelievable tale unfolded.
During the disputes over his mother's inheritance, Mike had felt an odd sensation in his leg after walking through a crowd. He discovered a deep cut on his thigh and found a utility knife in his pocket, which he used for work. The blade wasn't exposed, but he figured it might have accidentally cut him. The wound appeared minor and likely to heal quickly, so amidst the chaos, he decided not to tell me and took care of it himself. However, his sister was now suggesting that she was responsible for the injury. She claimed she had inflicted it in the crowd, aiming for an artery but failing. She even knew the exact location of the wound. I checked Mike's thigh while he was unconscious and found the old cut. It wasn't that I doubted him, but part of me had hoped that such a wound didn't exist. The idea of someone harming another for inheritance was appalling. While receiving an inheritance is certainly better than not, causing harm to increase one's share is utterly reprehensible. However, despite my wishes, I found an old cut on Mike's thigh, clear evidence of his sister's malicious intent. As anger surged within me, I carefully redressed Mike and turned my attention back to the letter. Mike wrote that he was convinced his life was in danger. The hurried scrawl indicated he had written it while his sister briefly left the room. It was peculiar that she had insisted on having her son, Mike's nephew, present during their inheritance discussion. Before she was disowned, Mike had been very fond of his nephew, and she likely remembered this. It seemed she planned to use her nephew as emotional leverage to secure a larger share of the inheritance. Feeling threatened, Mike had instructed his nephew to give me the letter if anything happened to him. He mentioned in the letter that there was evidence in the inner pocket of his jacket. I searched the jacket he was wearing at the time of his accident. The bloodstains from the fall highlighted the severity of the incident. I hadn't touched it since the nurse handed it to me along with his other personal belongings. Following his instructions, I reached into the inner pocket and found a hard object. It was a voice recorder. I recalled the doctor mentioning that people usually try to protect their heads during a fall, but Mike had injuries on his arms that suggested he was shielding his chest. The doctor had even asked if Mike had any heart conditions, which was surprising since Mike always boasted about his health and had never suffered from any serious illnesses. The voice recorder in his chest pocket explained everything. Mike had protected it to preserve the evidence at the risk of his own life. I played the evidence Mike had risked his life to protect and was left speechless. The contents were so shocking that I couldn't find the words to express my astonishment, but it was undoubtedly incriminating evidence against his sister. I immediately contacted the police. Shortly afterward, Mike's sister returned, her demeanor cheerful as she patted her stomach, seemingly satisfied with something. She demanded the chair I was using, sat down, crossed her legs, and began touching up her makeup. When I asked her about the outcome of the inheritance distribution, she claimed that Mike had agreed to give her a larger share. When I inquired if she was with Mike when he fell, she said they had parted ways right after leaving the cafe where they met and insisted she knew nothing about the accident. She was lying. The discussion had been abruptly shifted to take place at her house, and all the subsequent events were captured on the voice recorder Mike had protected. I decided not to confront her lies immediately, but instead asked about other things. Memories with Mike and their father, why she hadn't mentioned her divorce earlier, and how she was living now. I also inquired about when she left the restaurant, how long she stayed there, and the name of the place. However, she soon became irritated and pushed me away, shouting, "He was my father. You're just an outsider who married into the family." Indeed, I might not have a direct connection to the inheritance, but Mike's life-threatening accident certainly involved me, so I pleaded with her to tell the truth. "Do you think I'm lying?" she retorted, visibly outraged. I played the voice recorder that Mike had risked his life to protect. It began with Mike expressing concerns about the difficulty of their conversation and his intention to document it for evidence. His sister immediately pressured him for a larger share of their father's inheritance. Initially, she was somewhat reserved, claiming she needed help raising her nephew alone. But when Mike rejected her suggestion, insisting she ask her ex-husband for child support, her demeanor shifted dramatically. She confessed to having inflicted the cut on Mike's thigh during the dispute over their mother's inheritance. "I thought if you were out of the picture, I'd get more," she said gleefully. Though she admitted to being scared back then, limiting her actions to just a cut, she now boasted about her ability to make it look like an accident. "Be careful of your back in high places. I'm always watching for a chance," she threatened. The fear and tension in Mike's voice were palpable through the recording. Sensing the danger of staying at her house, he cleverly changed the topic and suggested moving to a public place. There's a great fish restaurant nearby. Let me treat you, sister. Why don't you get ready? Suddenly, her demeanor changed and she left to prepare. In that moment, Mike quickly wrote a letter to me, entrusting it to his nephew. In a hushed voice, he mentioned the voice recorder, hoping I would find it, but just in case, he gave the letter to his nephew. After leaving her house for the restaurant, Mike treated his sister to lunch, but she remained her usual self. Upon leaving the restaurant, Mike suggested consulting a lawyer due to the deadlock in their discussion. When Mike said he was heading home, his sister insisted on accompanying him to the station. During their walk, she tried to dissuade him from involving a lawyer, claiming it would complicate matters. When Mike refused, she began shouting at him in the street. Remaining calm, Mike insisted that involving a third party was the best option and mentioned that he would speak to a lawyer he knew. Suddenly, there was a sound like something falling or rolling, followed by commotion and voices calling for an ambulance. The recording stopped, likely because the stop button was hit when Mike's jacket was removed for emergency treatment. After the playback ended, the sister-in-law initially seemed shocked but then became defiant. So what? How does this prove anything? It's just a sibling argument. It's not about the inheritance dispute. It's about proving that Mike's fall was not an accident but an incident. Really? That doesn't prove anything. Heard you trying to say I'm the culprit? There's no evidence that I did anything.
This is enough evidence to show the police that there's a possibility of foul play. While the sister-in-law was away, the police had already arrived and confirmed the contents of the voice recorder. They had been waiting in hiding, anticipating her return. Police. Here, she gasped in disbelief. She had always looked down on others and seemed to have a misguided confidence that she could never be caught or held accountable by the police. As the reality of her actions began to dawn on her, her previously arrogant and confident demeanor shifted to one of fear. The entrance to the hospital room was covertly blocked by plainclothes detectives posing as visitors. We were on the 4th floor, leaving no easy escape route even if she wanted to flee. Jumping out of a window would not end well for her. A detective entered the room, approaching the sister-in-law, who was frantically looking around with a pale face, desperately searching for an escape route. They wanted to question her, as she might have been the last person with Mike, suggesting the incident was more than an accident. Maybe it was just someone who looked like me. There are supposedly 3 people in the world who look like each of us, she blurted out, seemingly trying to claim a case of mistaken identity. Despite her voice being recorded on the voice recorder, she tried to use a childish excuse to escape responsibility. I couldn't help but let out a wry smile at her pathetic attempt. The police were not swayed by her excuses, dismissing them with a nonchalant, yeah, I get it. Culprits often change their stories and make incoherent statements, which was exactly what the sister-in-law was doing. As the police took her away, I handed the voice recorder to the detective in charge, who appeared to be the lead investigator. After the sister-in-law's drama subsided, another person appeared. I had made another call when contacting the police. As the nephew saw the man enter, he exclaimed, "Daddy," and leaped into his father's arms. The former brother-in-law acknowledged me with a nod and then embraced his son, seemingly vowing never to let go. During the interaction between the sister-in-law and the police, the nephew had been scared and hiding behind me. He had been disheartened even after the police left, but his spirits lifted instantly upon seeing his father. This was the first time I had met the former brother-in-law since my mother-in-law's funeral. I had contacted him for a reason. The voice recorder Mike had safeguarded revealed the sister-in-law's true feelings about her son. She bluntly stated that she never wanted a child and only gave birth because she had to, never feeling any affection for him. Childcare was mostly left to the former brother-in-law, and his parents had often helped. So when they divorced, he thought he would easily get custody. However, desiring child support, the sister-in-law managed to convincingly portray herself as a devoted mother and won custody. It seems that mothers often have an advantage in custody battles. The former brother-in-law had to accept this, thinking maybe she had developed maternal feelings, as she had never mistreated their son. It's often said that women have a maternal instinct, but in the case of the sister-in-law, that theory was an exception. In reality, she only took custody for the child support and squandered the money on herself. Her cruel behavior towards her son, such as depriving him of food and locking him in a closet, was apparently routine.
Mike's letter revealed his desire to rescue his nephew from this situation, even if it meant giving up his entire inheritance. Mike's insistence on involving a lawyer was not just about the inheritance but also about his nephew's welfare. I couldn't help but feel that behind my husband's unwavering determination, even in the face of the danger posed by his sister, there was a resolve to save our nephew. It made me realize that I, too, needed to uphold that determination. I never relied on the inheritance. While having it is better than not, we are young and capable of earning our own way. I wouldn't blame Mike for giving up his inheritance, especially if it was for his nephew's sake. Mike believed that by offering the entire inheritance, the sister-in-law, driven by greed, would relinquish custody of her nephew. The letter also mentioned that once the nephew was safely away from his mother, he would be entrusted to his father. However, given the harm done to Mike, simply transferring the inheritance and retrieving the nephew wouldn't be the end of it. I felt the sister-in-law needed to be held accountable and made to regret her actions. The former brother-in-law became increasingly enraged as I relayed everything from Mike's letter. Seeing his drastically changed son, he blamed himself for what had happened.
After the divorce, the nephew lived with his mother, but the former brother-in-law had managed to secure a monthly visitation agreement. However, while the sister-in-law consistently demanded child support, she never allowed the former brother-in-law a single visitation. She continuously made excuses to refuse him access to their son, threatening that if he persisted, he would never see his nephew again, leaving him powerless. Expressing regret for not confronting my sister-in-law sooner or secretly checking on her, her ex-husband apologized repeatedly to his nephew. He then resolved to confront his sister anew. It turns out she had already been reported not only for the suspicious circumstances surrounding Mike's fall, but also for her mistreatment of the child. The youth division arrived, expressing a desire to hear from the nephew. As a guardian, my ex-brother-in-law accompanied him, and I was asked to join as well. Mike's recovery is uncertain. He might regain consciousness in an hour or even a year. Given the urgency of the nephew's situation, prioritizing him seemed the right choice. At the police station, a confrontation unfolded between my ex-brother-in-law, who was accompanying his nephew, and Mike's sister, who was still only a person of interest at that point. In a moment of distress or perhaps sheer folly, she began making outrageous accusations. It was him. This man told me to do it. He's a demon. I'm the real victim here, seduced by a demon into marriage. She hysterically referred to her son as a child of a demon. Her ex-husband couldn't remain silent. What do you mean, child of a demon? Stop harming the kid further. After pushing Mike down and all your excuses, blaming others makes you the real demon. Despite his logical argument, she continued threatening. I'll make you suffer the same fate. Everyone at the police station looked at her with disdain as she was dragged away by the officers. Given the risk she might harm others, she was detained. The investigation quickly progressed. Surveillance footage from a shop near the staircase at the station entrance, where Mike was pushed, showed her making a pushing motion. Although the camera angle didn't confirm the push definitively, the detective assured that they would obtain a conclusive confession. With the sister-in-law in custody, the focus shifted to the nephew's custody. Based on her recorded statements and the nephew's account, it was decided he should stay with my ex-brother-in-law. The nephew was overjoyed to live with his dad, who, along with his parents, was ensuring a comfortable and loving environment for him. After the police interrogation, I returned to the hospital, determined to stay by Mike's side until he regained consciousness. The next morning, Mike awoke. Although there was no concrete proof yet, upon learning that Mike's sister was being questioned by the police, he insisted he had something to tell the detective. We arranged for the detective to come to the hospital. Mike explained that he had been pushed from behind by his sister and suggested that her fingerprints, or rather, her handprints, would be clearly on the jacket he was wearing at the time. Forensics confirmed her handprints on the jacket, along with clear fingerprints. However, fearing she might still find a way to deny it, the police took extensive measures to review all nearby security cameras. Additionally, they appealed to the public for information. Someone who had been filming nearby contacted them, stating their footage might have captured the altercation. After reviewing the footage, it was clear that the sister-in-law had pushed Mike. Confronted with undeniable evidence, she was arrested without resistance. After some recovery, Mike, through his lawyer, demanded compensation and medical expenses from her. However, her bank account was empty and she owned nothing of significant value.
Even her designer bags were all fake, purchased from dubious sources. When asked for compensation, she claimed she had nothing to give. Mike then proposed splitting his father's inheritance equally, and eventually, he managed to collect the compensation and medical expenses when the inheritance was distributed. Although most of the inheritance went toward Mike's payments, a small amount did end up with the sister-in-law. However, all the money was used for legal fees for the crimes she committed, and now it seems there is hardly any money left in her account. The sister-in-law's selfishness and lack of foresight led her to end contracts with any lawyer who offered inconvenient advice, even mid-investigation. Since retainer fees are non-refundable, her money quickly dwindled as she repeatedly fired lawyers. Eventually, the lawyer she hired, who just followed her orders without question, couldn't mount a proper defense, making her trial look bleak.
After being placed with my ex-brother-in-law, the nephew's frail body began to recover, growing to a more appropriate size for his age. These circumstances heavily influenced the custody battle. A lawyer skilled in custody issues successfully advocated for the nephew's removal from the sister-in-law's care. They argued that proper upbringing was impossible under her due to her parenting style and the severity of her crimes. They highlighted my ex-brother-in-law's deep love for his son and showed how much the nephew wanted to live with him, taking into account the care he had received after Mike's sister's arrest, which smoothly secured custody. Now, I hear they are living peacefully with my ex-father-in-law and his parents. Sometime after Mike was discharged and returned to normal life, I started feeling unwell. Concerned it might be due to the strain of caring for him, I went for a checkup and found out we were expecting a new life. We discussed using the lessons from his sister's actions to raise our child to always smile and be kind to others. We believe our happiness is just beginning. Divorce Dad while you still can. Excuse me. The words slipped out of my mouth before I could stop them. My daughter Mary had just woken me up early this morning to tell me something shocking. It was a heavy phrase even for an adult to digest. Why was my daughter saying it? When I asked Mary to explain, she said, "You see, Dad's going to say bye-bye to you." Wait, bye-bye? Is that true? Yeah, so you've got to do it fast. I didn't doubt Mary's words, but it was hard to believe that Richard would think that way. Yet Mary's eyes were fixed intently on mine, far more serious than you'd expect from a 5-year-old. I couldn't believe those determined eyes would lie. All right, Mary, get ready. With that, we quickly packed our things and left the house. My name is Jennifer Smith. I live with my husband Richard and our 5-year-old daughter Mary. I met Richard in college, and we married right after I graduated. I had planned to support him as a housewife, but when his job didn't pan out as expected, I had to take a job at a local company. The following year, I became pregnant. After discussing our future, I decided to quit my job to focus on raising Mary and managing the household, but things didn't go smoothly. The reason was Richard. After graduating, he landed a job at a major company, but his naturally reserved nature and lack of aptitude made it hard for him to fit in, and he quit shortly after. He jumped from one job to another before finally settling into his current job 4 years ago. Richard seems to think that since he's held this job for 4 years, we're financially stable, but in reality, we're far from it. We're actually in a tough spot. With Richard's earnings, our future looks uncertain. I'm back. Welcome home. Here for this month. After finishing work, Richard came home and immediately handed me this month's living expenses. Thanks. Richard smiled happily and went into another room to change out of his suit. I sighed as I watched him go. It's a kind gesture, but I couldn't help but give a wry smile as I looked at the money. Our daughter, at just 5 years old, requires a lot of attention and care, which costs money. The cost of living has skyrocketed compared to when it was just the two of us. The little extra cash would be helpful, but there's a limit to how far it can stretch. Richard always gives me $500 for household expenses. Honestly, it's not enough. Deep down, I wish he'd give a bit more, but telling him that outright seems harsh. Despite being a full-time employee, Richard's monthly take-home pay is only $1,500. The pay is so low that I sometimes wonder if his company is doing okay. Knowing this, I can't really ask for more. Seeing his ever-smiling face makes it even harder. There's another reason I can't say anything. Once I mentioned needing more money for expenses, and his reaction was intense. Do you expect me to give even more? Do you realize how hard I'm working for this little pay?
I had just tried to discuss our increasing expenses since our daughter was born, but Richard got really mad. I should have considered his situation before speaking, but with all the child rearing I was busy with, I didn't have the time to think about his feelings then. Maybe you could consider finding a job that pays better. Stop nagging. I like my current job. You don't work, so don't comment on my choices. I'm sorry. Richard is generally a man of few words. To outsiders, he appears quiet and gentle, but at home, he assumes the role of the head of the household, a true traditionalist. Even the smallest comment that he dislikes can set him off. This has become a bit of a trauma for me, and now I'm always walking on eggshells when I speak to him. On one such occasion, "Are you okay, Mom?" "Huh? Oh, I'm fine, Mary. Thanks for worrying about me." "You're welcome." Though I work from home between taking care of Mary and handling house chores, I don't earn as much as I'd like. During these challenging days, my little angel Mary always manages to comfort my weary heart. "Mommy, I've been good, so you have to work hard, okay?" She said this, bringing me a glass of orange juice with her tiny hands. "Thanks, Mary. After I finish work, let's go shopping, okay?" "Yeah." Mary's bright smile made her look so precious. I never want her to go through tough times. If money is tight, I just have to work harder. Thanks to my daughter's support, I've been able to focus more on my work. Then one day, "I'm back. Mary, I got you a toy. Look, it's the one you've been wanting." For the first time, Richard, who had never bought toys before, brought one home for our daughter. However, when she saw the toy handed to her by her dad, she said, "I got this one from Mommy the other day," and showed it to him. Suddenly, his face turned pale, and he snatched the toy from her, throwing it in anger.
Fortunately, it didn't hit her, but the mere thought of what could have happened is terrifying. "What the hell are you doing? Shut up." As we shouted at each other, our daughter cried uncontrollably on the side. Perhaps agitated even more by that, he moved towards our crying daughter. I instantly knew this was bad, so I shielded her. "Go away." "No." Richard raised his right arm and then swung it down. The sound echoed through the room. Without a word, he went to the back room, changed into his casual clothes, and headed out. I held my daughter tightly. "Mary, are you okay?" She wasn't crying like before, but perhaps frightened by a side of Richard she had never seen, she trembled slightly in my arms. Once I felt she had calmed down, I headed to the bathroom. "Wow, that's quite a bruise." It was a bruise that anyone could see. Thankfully, it wasn't severe enough to warrant a hospital visit. I still can't understand why Richard got so angry. Was he upset because I bought a toy for Mary, or because it was the same toy she already had? The distress I feel toward my husband after what he did isn't easily dismissed. The thought of it possibly happening again is something I really don't want to dwell on. 2 hours later, Richard returned. Our eyes met, but he didn't say a word and headed straight to the bedroom, grabbing his pajamas on his way to the bathroom. After his bath, he went straight to bed. I was scared he might do something again, but I was relieved when he fell asleep immediately. I decided to sleep in the living room with Mary. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a loud noise. Richard had left for work. Yesterday's events flashed through my mind, making me let out an involuntary sigh. Beside me, Mary was sound asleep. I gently stroked her head, fervently hoping for an uneventful day. 3 months have passed since that incident, and thankfully, life has been smooth. Richard has been working hard as usual, and I've been taking care of the house and Mary while also managing my remote job, leading a life much like before. I'm home. Got a cake from that popular pastry shop today. Come on, try it. Thank you, Daddy. Where's mine? Sorry, Mary. I didn't get one for you today. It's just for Mom. I'll get you one next time, all right? Ever since that day, my husband seems like a different man. He who was always so reserved in public began to talk more, stopped acting all high and mighty at home, and became kinder to me and Mary. Perhaps that incident changed his perspective. However, there's one thing that still concerns me. It's the moment he hands me the monthly expenses. His salary remains as meager as ever, yet he started giving me his entire paycheck for household expenses. Here's for this month. Salary is still low, but this should be more than enough, right? Hold on, the whole thing again. We don't need this much. The extra I earn from working at home covers it just fine. Yeah, true. But hey, I'm the breadwinner of this family, right? If I only gave like $500 for expenses, wouldn't that be embarrassing? People would laugh if they knew. His attitude was off-putting. Despite the changes, he seemed entirely different.
At that moment, I felt an indescribable unease. Hey Dad, let's play with me. Oh, it's been a while. Sure, what do you want to do? Let's see. It was a sight I hadn't seen in a long time. Until recently, my husband and Mary used to play together every day. However, after that incident, Mary had kept her distance from him. I was surprised when Mary, who had been avoiding her father, asked him to play with her. Watching them head to Mary's room, Mary glanced back at me for just a moment. Her eyes at that time seemed to be pleading with me. An hour later, Mary came to the living room. The moment she saw me, she said her father would be going on a business trip. Dad said he's going to be on a business trip from tomorrow. A business trip? He didn't mention anything to me. He always used to inform me whenever he was leaving for a business trip, but this time he hadn't. Later, when my husband came to the living room, I asked him about the trip. It came up suddenly. Suddenly? When? Where are you headed? It's quite far. This one's a crucial trip, and there are some secrets involved. I had never heard of a secret business trip. His inconsistent explanations made me feel uneasy, but I just went to bed that night. The next day, I was jolted awake by a clattering noise coming from the living room. What? Peeking into the living room, I saw Richard preparing for his business trip. Sorry, did I wake you up? You're leaving already? I'm starting work as soon as I get there, so I thought I'd leave with some extra time. It's good to be early, but it's only 5 o'clock a.m. Why so soon? Well, I'm just a low-ranking employee. I should be there earlier than everyone else. With that, he quickly left for his business trip. His behavior felt off. Something was definitely amiss. Just as I was contemplating this, our daughter suddenly woke up and said, "You should divorce Dad now." Excuse me, I blurted out in surprise. For her to wake up this early and tell me to divorce her father was unexpected. Even an adult would be taken aback by such words. Why would my little girl say this? I asked her to explain in detail. He's planning to say bye-bye to you. Wait, bye-bye? Is that true? Yeah, so you have to act fast. It wasn't that I doubted her words, but it was hard to believe that he would think such a thing. Yet her eyes, fixed intently on mine, were more serious than you'd expect from a 5-year-old. There was something in that earnest look that made it hard to believe she was lying. All right, Mary, let's get ready right now. With that, we quickly packed and left the house. A few days later, I received a frantic call from him. Hey, where are you? I came back from my trip and nobody's home, and all your stuff's gone. What's going on? Welcome back. How was your trip? Must have been boring going all alone, huh? What? What are you talking about? No use playing dumb. I know the business trip was a lie. My husband's business trips were all a lie. That's crazy. Why would I lie about a business trip? If you're so concerned, call the company. They'll set things straight. You'll see if I'm lying or if you're just paranoid. Oh really? Should I call them? Huh? You think if you say that I won't actually call? Is that why you're being so bold? But the thing is, I'm certain you're lying because I already checked with the company. They told me you'd taken a 3-day break and asked if I hadn't heard about it. He let out a small gasp on the other end. My husband, who had left the house saying it was for a business trip, had been spending nights in his car, switching locations so nobody would spot him. Surprise, huh? My husband probably didn't think I'd go that far. Sure, the old me would have just believed his stories about business trips and wouldn't have thought to call his company to verify, but this time it's different, all thanks to her daughter. Mary told me that your business trips were lies. What? Mary? No way. There's no way Mary would know that. You must have put that idea in her head, didn't you? That's impossible. You know as well as I do that even though Mary's only 5, she's observant. She watches everything closely, including what we're doing and thinking. Despite being just 5, Mary has a mature perspective, probably because of all the TV dramas I watch. She was always fussy as a baby. I thought she'd grow out of it, but with her it lasted longer and was worse than I ever imagined. During those times, I'd often watch TV dramas while trying to soothe her. Even now, as she's gotten older, she continues to watch them habitually. From the latest shows to old ones and even 2-hour mystery dramas. If she can't watch it all, she'll record it to watch later. Her love for dramas even surprises me at times. Because of this, her way of thinking and speaking has naturally matured. You said it before, didn't you? That as the head of the family, it's your job to protect us, that you know what's best for the family. Yeah, I did. I am the head of this household. I know you guys better than anyone. Well then, you must know what I'm going to say next. Yeah, of course. In that case, I don't hesitate to say I'm going to divorce you. What? When I mentioned divorce, he naturally opposed it strongly. Divorce? Why? What could you like about me? It's not about liking or disliking. I'm divorcing you to protect myself before you erase me. What? I don't get what you're saying. My husband suddenly grew silent. I pressed on. If you don't get it, then let me explain. It all started when Mary told me she wanted us to get divorced. At first, I thought, divorce, why? But right after that, when Mary said bye-bye, I realized she had picked it up from TV dramas. Mary, who loves any and all TV shows, especially enjoyed mystery dramas. In those shows, there are almost always scenes where someone dies. After watching them, Mary must have intuitively felt that causing someone pain and making them stop breathing was a bad thing. Every time one of those scenes played, she would say to me, "Hey mom, that lady just went bye-bye, and earlier it was a man. Is that guy bad?" That's right, people who make others go bye-bye like that are bad. I see. In other words, when Mary said bye-bye, she was talking about someone dying. And then she told me, Daddy's trying to make you go bye-bye. If I hadn't been watching those shows with her, I would have never understood her. Had I not spent quality time with Mary, I wouldn't have caught on, and without a doubt, I would have ended up dead at the hands of my husband. You really think I'd do something like that? You must have said it because it's the truth, right? Cut the crap. Why the hell would I want to harm my own wife? And you, believing something a 5-year-old says, and then considering divorce. You've got to be kidding me. It seemed like arguing with him was futile at this point. I needed to show him undeniable evidence. If you're so adamant, I'll show you the evidence. Evidence. I hung up the phone and then sent him an image. Moments later, he called back. Why do you have? Surprise. What I sent him was a detailed plan from his phone to end my life. When he returned from his business trip, he was going to take me and Mary on a drive, drug us with a drink containing sleeping pills, leave us in the car, then pretend to be the one who found us. Worse, in the same vein, he intended to harm our daughter as well. A plan so sinister it was hard to believe anyone could think of it. By the way, I found out about this thanks to Mary. What? Previously, when our daughter Mary played with him, she hurried to me and said, Mom, look at this. She handed me his phone. On the screen was the entire plan he had come up with. The plan detailed his grievances against me. Despite working as an office employee, I, working from home, earned more, which wounded his pride. Over time, his pride turned to jealousy. He began to think that without me, his pride would remain intact, so he started researching ways to get rid of me online. You went through my phone. I didn't intend to, not until Mary told me. The reason Mary knew what was on your phone dates back a while. Once, Mary asked him to watch a TV drama. However, my husband wouldn't give up the TV he was watching, so he told our daughter to play a game instead and handed her his cell phone. When our daughter unlocked the phone to play a game, she came across a screen she had never seen before. But that screen was the meticulous plan my husband had made to get rid of me. That screen was eerily similar to a plot from a TV drama she had watched. That's how Mary realized what he was planning. You had no right to snoop. How can you even say that? You realized what you were planning, right? I'm just glad I trusted Mary. If not, who knows where she and I would be now. He hung up without another word. Right after that, an email popped up on my cell. It read, Don't think this is over. I've got plans too. 2 hours later, to my shock, my husband showed up at my parents' house. I knew you'd be here. How'd you know I was here? I always knew you'd run back home. It was pretty obvious. Behind me, our daughter looked terrified. Go to the back room. She nodded and quietly went to the back room. I never thought he'd come all the way to my parents, but now that he's here, I have no choice but to face him. So, what brings you here? Surely you're not trying to take us back, are you? That's exactly why I'm here. We're a family, after all. We should be together. Together. You who's been threatening Mary and me? Give me a break. The confrontation continued. Don't worry about what happened before. I've changed. Let's live happily, just the three of us. For you and Mary. It's definitely a lie. I could see it in his eyes. I've told you before, I'm going to divorce you. I've already consulted a lawyer. A lawyer, huh? Well, they mean nothing if I don't agree. That might be true, but it won't come to that. What do you mean? Then I showed him something. Isn't that the plan I recorded? What's the point in showing me that now, trying to threaten me with it? Even so, I'm not going to divorce you. I'm not as low as you to threaten you. If I did, people would think I'm just like you. What I did was tell the police everything, along with all the evidence. What? The cops? Of course. You think I wouldn't do anything when my own husband's trying to kill me? Hearing about the police, he looked enraged and lunged at me. I tried to shut the front door in haste, but he forced it open with his strength. You think this is a joke? He was a completely different person, not the mild-mannered husband I knew. In the face of his raging strength, I felt helpless. Mama. From behind, I heard Mary's voice. Looking back, I saw her trembling in fear but still watching us. She was so scared. It's okay, sweetie. Mama will protect you. Saying that, I felt a newfound strength. Maybe it was the power of a mother trying to protect her child. I tried with all my might to close the door, but his strength was beyond anything I imagined. I just can't anymore. It was then. What are you doing? As the voice rang out, my husband was thrown back, screaming in horror. Confused, I peeked outside through a small gap in the front door. Jennifer, are you okay? Dad. Just in the nick of time, my father appeared. Dad, why are you here? I thought you were starting your business trip today. I forgot something at home and came back to get it. I felt a huge sense of relief knowing he was here, even if it was just a coincidence. But what the heck is going on here? Gulping, my husband, intimidated by my father's intense presence, seemed to lose all strength in his legs and collapse on the spot. It was understandable. My dad stands tall at 6'3" and is solidly built, having practiced judo during his school days. Even now, he keeps himself fit by hitting the gym regularly. He looks as impressive as ever, well into his 60s. Even the young and reckless would think twice before confronting him. There was no way my husband could stand a chance against him. So, are you going to tell me why you're here and what you were planning to do to my daughter and granddaughter? Unable to bear the tension any longer, my husband tried to flee, tears streaming down his face. But in the next moment, several men grabbed him. Don't move. What the? Let go. Get off me. Struggling, my husband was subdued by several police officers and taken away right then and there. That was close. It seems Richard had come to make one last extreme gesture. Later, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for attempting to harm me and my daughter. During that time, my parents, my daughter, and I moved far away for safety. I left all matters related to the divorce, child support, and property settlement to my lawyer, ensuring I didn't have to see my husband again. 6 months later, I heard from my lawyer that my ex-husband was serving his sentence as a model inmate. However, upon completing his sentence, he was set to work offshore, meaning he wouldn't be leading a decent life for a long while. Meanwhile, I've been living happily in our new home with my daughter and parents. Mary, could you take this over to Grandpa and Grandma? Yeah. Just be careful not to drop it. I'll be fine. These days, unlike before, our lives are filled with laughter, free from stress. I sincerely hope these peaceful days last forever. I heard you're trapped in a miserable situation because of some outdated fertility treatments. A few years after our divorce, I ran into my husband with that same sarcastic smirk he always wore. We were in a renowned wine country, and the encounter was entirely unexpected. All that effort, and for what? He sneered, looking down at me. He had remarried and had children, living a seemingly perfect life, convinced he was the victor and mocking me for my struggles. And whose story might that be? I retorted, gently patting my slightly rounded belly. I wonder who really needs fertility treatments now. He had no idea that he was about to face a shocking revelation. No matter how much he ranted or clung to the past, it was too late for regrets. His false sense of happiness was starting to crumble. Our encounter was setting the stage for the divergence in our lives, sharply contrasting our fortunes. The pursuit of happiness and those who miss it would be defined by this moment. I'm Mary, a travel agent. I love crafting travel plans for my clients, making their journeys memorable and satisfying. I found great fulfillment in this work. Stephen and I met through a workplace romance. He joined my branch as the new manager. With his calm demeanor and kind smile, he always treated me with gentleness. During busy seasons like the summer holidays, we often worked late into the night. We chat excitedly during breaks or support each other through tough times, and gradually, we spent more and more time together. Eventually, we realized our feelings for each other and started dating, leading to our marriage. After we got married, I was transferred to a different branch of the travel agency. The job was demanding with long hours and a lot of overtime. You've worked so hard without complaint. Now that we're married, it's okay to relax a bit and be a homemaker, my husband said with genuine concern, making me feel incredibly happy. Despite his suggestion, I found my work fulfilling and had a dream I was determined to realize. I had saved diligently, living frugally for this very purpose, so I chose to continue working even after we tied the knot. My husband respected my aspirations and we both threw ourselves into our respective jobs, understanding and supporting each other's commitments. Each evening, we returned home to find comfort and joy in each other's company, relishing the simple happiness of our routine. 2 years into our marriage, a sense of unease began to creep in. It's taking a while for us to have a baby, isn't it? I asked, noticing that 2 years had passed without conceiving. Having lost my parents while I was still a student and growing up as an only child, I often felt lonely. Because of this, I always dreamed of having a large family. After getting married, I longed to have at least 2 children, not a large brood, but certainly more than one. There's no need to rush. They will come when the time's right, he reassured me, agreeing with my desire to start a family. I wonder if I might be infertile. Maybe I should get checked out at the hospital, I said, feeling downcast. Don't be so hard on yourself. Everything's going to be okay. But if it'll ease your mind, go ahead and see the doctor, he said, gently stroking my hair. His understanding always moved me deeply, almost to tears. I started visiting the OB/GYN and underwent a series of tests. After many examinations, the doctors found nothing wrong. That's great news. There's nothing wrong, my husband said, looking at the test results with relief. See, what did I tell you? There's no need to worry. The baby will come when it's ready. His kind smile had comforted me countless times, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Next up is your test. It's a quick procedure, so maybe you could fit it in during a work break. It's likely that there won't be any issues on your end, but I wanted to be thorough and have you tested as well. I was confident that my husband would agree without much hesitation. Why should I get tested? Infertility is usually a woman's issue, and it's pointless for me to do it, he replied, his tone surprising me. It might seem pointless, but it's just a precaution. Besides, if it turns out there's an issue on the male side, there are treatments available. Wouldn't you consider it? I saw his expression darken and I understood his hesitation. The idea of having a problem could feel like a blow to his masculinity. It was a sensitive matter, and I knew that pushing him would be wrong. There's no rush. Whenever you have the time, I said, but he remained silent, and the subject was left unresolved for the day. One day, we visited my husband's family home for his mother's birthday. We brought a bouquet and a gift to celebrate. When my husband was a child, his father had an affair and disappeared, leaving his mother to raise him alone. I knew she had faced many hardships. This year, she turned 65 and finally retired after years of hard work, always dedicated to raising her children. I had great respect for her strength and resilience, and I hoped she could now enjoy her days in peace and happiness. I was certain the bouquet and gift would make her happy. With this conviction, I opened the front door to my in-laws' house. Well, hello there, my mother-in-law greeted us with a radiant smile. Oh, what beautiful flowers. And this bath set. I'm so touched you remembered how much I love my baths. As I had anticipated, she was thrilled with the gifts. It should have been a pleasant afternoon for the 3 of us. But then she said, I'm happy with the gifts and flowers, but I'm starting to look forward to seeing the grandchild's face. And the mood shifted dramatically. I was speechless, glancing at my husband, who remained silent. Mary, I know you're busy with work, but there are more important things than work, aren't there? You need to consider your health and think about starting a family. There are fertility treatments available now. I've addressed my health issues. I've been tested, and everything was fine. I want to hold a dear grandchild soon, Mary. I'm waiting, she said earnestly. Why is it always assumed that the woman is to blame for infertility? Why is nothing ever said to my husband? I wanted to argue, but I couldn't bring myself to. I was afraid it would create a rift between my mother-in-law and me. I wished my husband would speak up and clarify things, but he stayed silent. It felt as though the blame for our childlessness was entirely placed on me. I'm expecting to hear the good news of a baby by my next birthday, she added, her words heavy with expectation. The deadline made my anxiety soar. I kept telling myself not to worry, but her words echoed in my mind constantly. I can't recall much from the conversation that followed. As evening descended, we left my in-laws' home. On the way back, we walked side by side in silence, the setting sun casting our long shadows on the sidewalk. I fixated on those shadows the entire way. My husband's shadow moved forward, straight and unyielding. What was he thinking now? How did he take what his mother said? I wanted to ask, but I couldn't. No, I was afraid to. Afraid his words would crush me once more. We reached home without a word. I'm starving. Let's get dinner started, my husband said casually, as if nothing had happened. He probably intended to let the day end without addressing my feelings. Summoning my courage, I broke the silence. Hey, Stephen, about what your mom said today. He turned to me with his usual serene smile. Huh? What about it? He asked, that smile now seeming almost forced. She said she wanted grandkids, didn't she? I looked him straight in the eyes. Yeah, but since we can't have them, we just have to wait, right? No, that's not what I'm trying to say. You were the one who told me to prioritize my health over work and consider fertility treatments. I faced the issue head on, got tested, and everything was fine. His expression started to shift. Why didn't you say anything back then? It feels like all the blame is on me, but I'm not the one avoiding the issue. You are, aren't you, Stephen? I hadn't meant to be so harsh, but once I started, the words just poured out. All my pent-up frustration erupted. What the heck? Always talking about tests. I already told you that the cause of infertility is often on the woman's side, and what Mom said wasn't wrong. It's not my fault, he shouted, his face turning red. This wasn't the calm, understating man I knew. I know it's not your fault, Stephen. It's unfair to blame anyone for infertility. I just want us to move forward. Whether we pursue treatment or not, we need to start with the tests. Despite our arguments, neither of us could see eye to eye, and we remained at an impasse. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm hungry. I'm going to get something to eat, my husband said. Leaving the house, I was left alone in the silent room. Suddenly, I felt all the strength drain from my body, and I collapsed onto the sofa. The image of my husband shouting replayed in my mind. Was it my fault? I hadn't meant to anger my kind husband. That wasn't my intention. I just wanted to be understood, to work together to build our future. That's why I wanted the tests. I couldn't stop crying in the quiet room, with only the sound of my sobs echoing around me. The next morning, my husband returned home silently. You said you were just going out to eat. Where did you spend the night? I was worried, I asked, but he didn't respond. It doesn't matter, he said, leaving that one phrase hanging in the air as he headed to work. It was our first big fight. These things happen. I hoped he'd be in a better mood by evening. With that hope, I too went to work. All morning, I could only sigh, but my husband's mood didn't seem to improve. Days turned into weeks, and he started leaving the house earlier and returning later. On weekends, he'd leave without a word and only come back after I had gone to bed. The time we used to spend together had drastically diminished. It felt like he was avoiding me, and I no longer knew how to reach out to him. Gradually, this silent existence became our new normal. I couldn't even remember the moments we used to cherish together. What had changed between us? Was it so wrong to suggest that test? Finally, my husband stopped coming home. Lately, you've been away a lot. Where are you staying? We spoke with our backs turned to each other. I've been swamped at work and always miss the last train, so I stay at a business hotel near the office, he replied, also with his back to me. I see, I said, and then he went off to the bedroom. At some point, my bed had become the couch in the living room. The excuse of working late didn't make sense. It wasn't even the busy season. My husband was hiding something. A few weeks later, it became clear. He would come home every few days, dump a load of laundry for me to do, and then pack his freshly washed clothes and underwear into his bag before leaving again. He could at least wash these himself. I muttered as I loaded his laundry into the machine. That's when I heard something drop with a clink. I looked around, but nothing was there. I was sure I heard something, so I searched more carefully this time. What could have fallen? When I stepped back, I noticed something glinting at my feet. There it was. What was this? I picked up the shiny object and held it in my hand. I was at a loss for words. The object was a small earring. For a moment, my mind went blank, but I wasn't as shocked as I thought I would be. It was obvious from the moment he stopped coming home. My husband was having an affair. I had this suspicion deep down, but I was afraid to confront the truth and pretended not to care. I just didn't want to hurt myself. But now, faced with the reality, I couldn't run anymore. I decided to confront my husband head on to gather proof of his affair and end our marriage. The next day, I went to a private investigator. A few days later, the affair was exposed. That other woman was a new employee at the branch where my husband worked. Around the time our marriage began to falter, this young, attractive employee joined the company. With his trademark calm demeanor and kind smile, my husband charmed her, becoming her mentor at work. It seemed their relationship had developed from there. It was new to me, but apparently my husband had made advances on various female employees before, using his position as a superior. He would sweet-talk women, drawing them close with his clever tactics. I was just another woman who had fallen for his scheme. He probably chose me as a marriage partner because I was convenient. Frustration and anger bubbled up inside me. I decided it was time to end this chapter of my life. That night, as usual, my husband came home with a load of laundry. "You might as well have her do your laundry at her place instead of coming all the way home," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm as he walked past me. He stopped and turned around. "What are you talking about? I told you it's work." Then he looked at me with a cold stare. "Is this what work is to you? What exactly are you teaching this female employee after hours?" I thrust several photos in front of him. The images showed them leaving the workplace together and entering the apartment where the female employee lived alone. "What's this?" My husband's shock was palpable. "Don't play dumb with me. I found everything. And these earrings. Weren't they the ones she was looking for? They were caught on your shirt." He froze, staring at the earrings in my palm. "I never thought you were such a womanizer. Let's just end this now. You can date her openly." With that, I handed him the divorce papers. A tense silence hung in the air. He stared at the papers, shock etched on his face. Then, suddenly, he burst into laughter. "What's this? Sour grapes. Are you jealous because we can't have kids? If you've got time to take pictures like these, why not focus on getting treatment so you can get pregnant?" His audacity was staggering. "Who's really full of sour grapes here?" I struggled to keep my anger in check. "Divorce? That suits me fine. She's pregnant. I've been wanting to cut ties with you ASAP. I'm only thinking about my new family now." To top off his affair, he got her pregnant. What a reckless man. I was at a loss for words, and so we got divorced. It was an anticlimactic end. He took only the bare essentials and left. I decided to move out of the rental condo we had shared. After finishing the lease termination, I was cleaning up the apartment. Everything my husband had left behind went straight into trash bags. I didn't have a shred of nostalgia. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this time? I slowly opened the front door. Standing there was a man, disheveled and in dirty clothes. Someone I had never seen before. He greeted me and began to speak. His words left me stunned. 3 years had passed since then. After my divorce, I continued to save diligently, and finally, I reached my savings goal. I had made my dream come true, and so I quit my job at the travel agency. One day, I was strolling through one of the U.S. most famous wine regions, renowned for its vineyards and popular wine tastings. The area was buzzing with people enjoying the scenery, and new sweet shops and cafes had attracted a younger crowd, adding to its charm. I loved the vibrant atmosphere so much that I decided to move nearby. As I walked in the lovely weather, a familiar voice called my name from behind. Who could it be? I turned around, and to my surprise, I was stunned into silence by the sight before me. It was my ex-husband, whom I had parted ways with 3 years ago. "Well, I never expected to run into you here. Are you taking a solo trip to wine country?" "That's pretty sad," he said, dressed in work clothes with a scruffy beard and messy hair. I wondered if he had quit his job at the travel agency. I never imagined we'd bump into each other like this. "So, I hear you're stuck in hell because of some futile fertility treatments," he said with a sarcastic smile. "It's pathetic, really. All that effort for nothing," he sneered, looking down on me. My ex-husband probably wanted to flaunt his happiness, boasting about his new baby from his second marriage, convinced he was on the winning side and mocking me. And whose story might that be? I shot him a cold glare. "I got the scoop from the landlord of that rental place we used to live in. Sounds like you're in debt. After I left, some guy you borrowed money from came to collect, right? You racked up debt for expensive infertility treatments, and in the end, you got nothing but a pile of bills." The man he mentioned was someone who had come asking about money when I was cleaning out the apartment alone after our divorce. "Debt? You're mistaken about something. But hey, sometimes it's better off being wrong."
I confronted my ex-husband with a truth that visibly clouded his expression. It was a shocking revelation for him. 3 years ago, after our divorce, I was packing up our apartment when a man showed up. That man wasn't a debt collector. He was actually Stephen's father. I had been told he had run off with another woman years ago, but there he was, looking for Stephen. It seemed he had heard from someone where Stephen's married life was taking place. By that time, we were already divorced and had canceled the lease on the apartment. Our names had been removed from the door plate and mailbox, so his father didn't know Stephen's apartment number and asked the landlord on the first floor. The father mentioned only Stephen's last name and said he wanted to meet Stephen because he had lent him money. Frightened by the thought of a debt collector, the landlord contacted me immediately. When I heard about the visitor, I simply said, "Let him in, I'll meet with him." The landlord loved gossip, and I was afraid of rumors spreading. So the landlord, who probably believed the father was indeed a debt collector, likely told Stephen the story in a dramatic way. When they met, Stephen took it seriously. The reason Stephen's father came to the apartment was to ask for money. He had been abandoned by his mistress and was in financial trouble. Desperate to find Stephen, he came to ask for money, unaware that we had divorced. He humbly asked for my help, but it had nothing to do with me anymore. This man was not my relative or anything of the sort. I told Stephen's father to rely on his son and gave him Stephen's contact information. After that, Stephen's father left. Hearing this story, Stephen's face turned red with rage. "You gave him my contact info." Ever since then, I've been hounded by dependency inquiries. It's been a nightmare. Amidst the cheerful laughter echoing through the wine country, my ex-husband's yelling cut through. "Why do I have to help that guy? He left me, and Mom didn't either. Showing up now and asking for help. That's just too much." It's no wonder my ex-husband was angry. It was entirely his father's selfishness, but I had no sympathy to spare for that. And then my wife says she's sorry for having such a troublesome father and even talked about getting divorced because of it. That's quite the sorry situation. However, for the sake of our child who's on the way, I convinced her to give our marriage another shot. By agreeing to help out with her family business, we settled things amicably. I glanced at the name embroidered on the chests of his work clothes. From the company name, it seemed like my ex-husband's wife's family ran a cleaning business. He had given up his position as the head of a travel agency branch and was now working as a cleaner, entering and exiting inns daily. Since his wife managed all the earnings from the cleaning business, my ex-husband didn't have a penny to spend freely. It seemed his wife had seen through his womanizing ways and wanted him out of the travel agency and under her parents' watchful eye. I was impressed with such a grounded young wife. She's got it together, doesn't she? But it's PR for a wife to make her husband live so restrictively. Is there another reason? I wonder. My ex-husband suddenly became quiet and his face turned pale. "What's the matter? You're still hiding something from me?" I wasn't hiding anything. Just one thing was on my mind. "I wonder if the child that's being born to you and your wife is really yours," I replied, patting my slightly swollen belly. My ex-husband looked at my belly and froze. It was as if time had stopped just for him. In fact, I was pregnant, just like the test results had shown. There was nothing wrong with my body. After the divorce, I led a life far beyond my ex-husband's imagination. That life was bliss itself. Saying that, I started to walk toward the upscale hotel in front of me. Then he said, "Wait, hear me out," trying to hold me back. But I had no obligation to listen to my ex-husband anymore. "We didn't ask for your cleaning services, so please don't come in." My ex-husband looked at me, puzzled. "What do you mean, we? Who are you to this place?" I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "There's no more to discuss, but I'll leave you with one last thing. I'm the owner of this place." My ex-husband's face turned pale again. My parents loved this wine country. When I was young, our family often spent time in a small hotel here in this city. That hotel, filled with our memories, had become old and run down, overshadowed by the new, larger hotels that had sprung up around it. Eventually, it faced financial difficulties and nearly had to shut down. It was my dream to buy that hotel. I saved most of my income from the travel agency, and thanks to living frugally, I finally reached my savings goal. I bought it with the inheritance from my parents and my savings, renovated it, and successfully reopened it. From my experience in the travel agency, I created an inn that feels cozy for everyone, young and old, men and women alike. The reputation of the inn spread rapidly.
Now it has joined the ranks of luxury hotels, and my net worth has reached $260 million. Especially popular at the hotel is the food. Menus are tailored for each guest, and the meals are served with this personal touch. Many guests come back specifically for the meals. The meals reflect the dedication of the chef, who spares no effort for the sake of others. I empathize with the chef's caring heart, and we were drawn to each other. Then, I remarried him. After the remarriage, I got pregnant right away. I have no more conversations with my ex-husband. I turned my back on him. Please wait, it must be about money as usual. Why is he trying to stop me? To me, he's a stranger now. I owe him nothing. I have nothing more to discuss with you. Don't ever show up in front of me again. With that, I walked into the hotel. Even so, when my ex-husband tried to follow me in, he was stopped by the staff and sent outside. The sound of my ex-husband calling my name faded away and eventually disappeared. Our unexpected reunion turned out to be a crossroads for each of our futures. A few weeks later, I received a letter. The sender's name on the envelope startled me. It was from my ex-husband. I had thought everything with him was firmly in the past. Curiosity and apprehension made me hesitate before opening the envelope. The handwriting, dense and filled with his distinct quirks, left no doubt about its origin. The contents of the letter were shocking. Here's what it revealed. After our unexpected encounter, Stephen began to question whether the infertility issue might stem from him. He grew suspicious and asked his wife if he was truly the father of their child. Despite her assurances, Stephen had always felt a disconnect, suspecting the child was not his. After persistent questioning, his wife finally confessed that the child was not his. She had a past relationship during her college years, and though she had started a fling with Stephen when she began working at a travel agency, her heart belonged to her college boyfriend. She became pregnant by him, and when he learned of her pregnancy, he vanished, overwhelmed by the responsibility. Fearing the stigma of being an unmarried mother, she had lied about the child's paternity, claiming it was from her brief affair with Stephen, and married him for financial security.
After the marriage, Stephen's wife discovered that his father had abandoned his family for a mistress, echoing her own experience of being abandoned by her college boyfriend. To control Stephen and keep his attention on her, she threatened him with divorce. She had him work under her parents' supervision, managed his paycheck, and ensured he had no disposable income. Frustrated with his constrained life, Stephen erupted when he learned the truth. The daily arguments with his wife grew incessant, and he chose to pursue a divorce. However, his in-laws, who sided with his wife, opposed the divorce. Determined, Stephen fled with barely any money, drifting from motel to motel. Without proper attire and with his unkempt appearance, he struggled to find work, resorting to odd jobs just to get by. He mentioned in his letter how he longed for the days when he had it easier. "Don't make a fool of me," wanting to get back together, I thought, feeling a mix of pity and frustration. His choices led him down this path. The fertility tests, the affair, and his dismissive attitude when we reunited. He was always selfish, never considering my feelings. I'm no longer the person I was back then. My future is bright, filled with the love of my new husband and the joy of our baby on the way. I had my lawyer inform him that any attempt to contact me or show up at my home would result in a restraining order. Then, I tore up his letter. I'm due to give birth next month, and while I'm filled with joy, there's also a tinge of anxiety about becoming a mother for the first time. My kind husband is my rock, encouraging and caring for me every day. On his days off, he helps with the housework. With him by my side, I know everything will be all right. Today is his day off, and we plan to stroll through wine country, enjoying the changing seasons, then take a long, deep breath in our favorite park. It's our cherished walking route. "Oh, the baby just kicked," I exclaimed with a smile. My husband quickly placed his hand on my belly, whispering gently to our baby, "This happiness isn't guaranteed. That's why it's so precious." As I took a deep breath of the fresh, crisp air in our charming town, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and peace. Every moment of this journey felt like a precious gift, and with my husband by my side, I knew we were ready to embrace the future together.